YouTube Live with me, Rahul and Singh, or the Bearded Mystic, and we're going to be reacting to Amogh Lila Prabhuji's response to Acharya Prashant. I believe Acharya Prashant made some comments, so we're going to actually look into what he says. He does say in the description that there is scriptural references, so we're going to look at that and. If there are scriptural references according to the Gita, I will then have a look at my translation and then address it accordingly. But if it's the Srimad Bhagavatam, then I would have to take his word, but kind of have a look at whether I agree with his interpretation. The other thing is, I respect his tone. He's nice. I don't agree with a lot of things that Amogh Lila Prabhuji says because we obviously belong to two different philosophies. I'm Advaita, he's Dvaita. He's more into the Hare Krishna's philosophy, which is fine. And the only thing I'm going to add to this is that he speaks in Hindi for the majority of the time, so my reaction will be in English, and you'll guess from my reaction what he is saying. So unfortunately, there's no subtitles, so it doesn't have the English subtitles on. But yeah, let's see. This is the first time I'm doing like a mixture of languages, and so yeah, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, let's get started with this.
तो ये जो वीडियो होने वाला है ये रिसेंटली एक रोस्ट वीडियो था जिसमें इस्कॉन को और हमको रोस्ट किया गया कि देखो जी ये इनका मत है आचार्य प्रशांत जी को लेकर के। तो पहली बात तो हमारा किसी को लेकर नेगेटिव मत नहीं रहता है और हम सब वास्तव में सनातन धर्म के परिवार हैं।
I like how he has started this. Hello, Destyanergy. I like how he started this. So he's obviously, first of all, saying that we're all part of Sanatana Dharma, and at the end of the day, we may have different views, but we're all under one family. I like what he's saying there. And he's obviously talking about that this is not Acharya Prashant's video against him, somebody else has made it. So I like the fact that he's done that. That's really respectful of him.
उसमें भले कोई अद्वैत का पालन करे या भक्ति का पालन करे, लेकिन है तो हम सब के सब सनातन धर्मी। तो इसलिए
Good. So yeah, he says if someone follows Advaita or someone follows the Bhakti tradition, we're all under Sanatana Dharma. So far, really, really good.
हम सब एक ही परिवार हैं, लेकिन एक परिवार के अंदर निश्चित रूप से हेल्दी डिस्कशंस तो हो सकते हैं। तो कुछ ना कुछ कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी चाहिए हो तो बिल्कुल हो सकती है। और कभी कभी मान लो कोई निंदा करता है ना, तो निंदा करके बल्कि हमें मौका देता है कि हम तत्व को, सिद्धांत को और अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन कर सकें। तो इसलिए
So this is where I may disagree with him just a little bit. If there is a discussion over a point, I do believe it's not to explain it better. Sometimes it's to evolve the philosophy or the discussion or anything like that. So I just differ with him on that slightly, but it's not a major point where I'm completely like not happy with what he's saying. But yeah, other than that, pretty much standard response.
आचार्य प्रशांत जी के द्वारा जो कही गई कुछ बातें हैं, वो चाहे भगवान के नाम को लेकर के हों कि मंत्रों में शक्ति नहीं होती, या फिर कृष्ण जो है साधारण बच्चा है, बच्चे के मुख में भला यशोदा मैया कैसे वो पूरे विश्व को देख सकते हैं, और वास्तव में कृष्ण है कौन, कृष्ण को रूप है क्या, नहीं है, वो तो निराकार है। तो एक तो कृष्ण साधारण है, ऊपर से अल्टीमेटली कृष्ण जो है वो निराकार है। ठीक है जी। और साथ ही
So he's laying out, as traditionally one should, the points that Acharya ji has made, which is that Shri Krishna is Nirakar Roop, which I also go by according to the podcast. So it's going to be interesting to see what Amogh ji has to say. I'll call him Prabhuji, what Prabhuji has to say. And then on top of that, yeah, I do believe Sri Krishna was a normal person. I don't think he was anything special in terms of having a human form. Everyone who has a human form is limited in that form. But but I know there's stories about it, and so I'm interested in what he has to say, because obviously, they spend a lot of time in Krishna Bhakti, and I think what they say will have weight regardless of whether I disagree with their point of view. So let's see as he goes further.
उन्होंने अपने आचार्य की होने की डेफिनेशन दी कि जो पढ़ाता है वो आचार्य है। तो इन सारे पॉइंट्स को हम वन बाय वन लेंगे, लेकिन उससे पहले क्योंकि हम प्रमाण देने वाले, तो प्रमाण भला कहां से देने वाले हैं, पहले उसको थोड़ा स्थापित करेंगे। उसके बाद फिर एक एक करके जितने भी आर्गुमेंट्स हैं जो कि आचार्य प्रशांत जी के फॉलोअर्स ने दिए हैं, उनको फिर हम आंसर देने का प्रयास करेंगे। बट अगेन वी आर सेइंग वी हैव गॉट नो नेगेटिव फीलिंग्स फॉर एनीवन। आचार्य प्रशांत जी की सबसे पहले तो हम प्रशंसा करना चाहेंगे, उन्होंने काफी लोगों को प्रेरणा दी है, काफी लोगों का जीवन उन्होंने सुधारा है, तो इसीलिए उसके लिए सिंसियरेस्ट एप्रिसिएशन है निश्चित रूप से, और हम उनके अच्छे स्वास्थ्य की कामना भी करते हैं। लेकिन हाँ,
Okay, so it starts off really nice. I must say, this is when I sometimes have red flags, because I don't. Sometimes, people may sweeten the appreciation and then go for the blow. So I have a feeling he may be doing that. He's known to be quite sarcastic, which I think can be quite funny actually, and can aid in spiritual teaching in many regards. But yeah, let's see. He said he's going to go through, before he goes to the Brahman, before he goes through the whole points, he's going to first address a few things, and he does make it clear he's not necessarily against Acharya ji. He recognizes Acharya ji's followers had done this video, not Acharya ji himself. But regardless, Acharya Prashant ji has made those points which he disagrees with. So let's see.
क्योंकि हम सब के सब सनातन परिवार का हिस्सा हैं, तो इसलिए हेल्दी डिस्कशंस हो सकते हैं। व्हाई नॉट? सो शास्त्रों पे आधारित हेल्दी डिस्कशंस तो हो सकते हैं। सो सबसे पहले हम शास्त्रों को स्थापित करेंगे, क्योंकि शास्त्रों से यानी कि वेदों से, उपनिषदों से, पुराणों से, श्रीमद् भागवतम से, इनसे हम सब कुछ स्थापित करने वाले। तो सबसे पहले इनकी
No Gita was mentioned. I know this is like a little nitpick point, but why Sri Bhagavatam? That's those are just stories about Sri Krishna. Why not the Bhagavad Gita? And that's that's a bit of a worry for me. But he mentions Upanishads, so that's interesting. So maybe he'll use some Upanishads text. Hi Dylanji. So I'm interested now in what he has to say, because it's I don't know where he's going to go. I'm pretty much concerned he's going to mainly quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which means I better try and find my translation very quickly. So if that's the case, I would ask you to be patient with me while I find that text. But let's see when it comes to that. But to note, and I'm just going to confirm, I'm going to go back a bit. He did not mention the Bhagavad Gita. And coming from a Hare Krishna, it's a red flag. But it may be just that in the moment you're doing a video, you forget. So I can also let him pass with that.
हिस्सा है, तो इसलिए हेल्दी डिस्कशंस हो सकते हैं। व्हाई नॉट? सो शास्त्रों पे आधारित हेल्दी डिस्कशंस तो हो सकते हैं। सो सबसे पहले हम शास्त्रों को स्थापित करेंगे, क्योंकि शास्त्रों से यानी कि वेदों से, उपनिषदों से, पुराणों से, श्रीमद् भागवतम से, इनसे हम सब कुछ स्थापित करने वाले। तो सबसे पहले इनकी ऑथेंटिसिटी को एस्टैब्लिश करते हैं, एंड देन वी प्रोसीड। तो कुछ लोगों का मानना है कि वेद जो है उनके प्रमाण को तो हम मानेंगे, लेकिन पुराणों के प्रमाण को हम नहीं मानेंगे। ये पुराण क्या है, किसी व्यक्ति ने लिख दिया, चल फिर रहा था, नौकरी थी नहीं उसके बाद, तो बस पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के उसने लिख दिए पुराण क्या होते हैं जी, वेद ही सब कुछ होते हैं। तो ऐसे क्यूटी पाई लोग भी हैं दुनिया के अंदर, तो इसीलिए
I would say he's funny. So what he's saying is, and his main point is that people say the Ved are supreme and the Puranas aren't, or Puran aren't. I'm gonna disagree with him. He's trying to make the point that Puran should be held in the same esteem. No, Ved is different. The Vedas are absolutely different. They are, those are, that's Shruti. Those are complete text in themselves. They don't need and Purana stories that have been written many, many years later. They're not intuitively inspired. And in fact, the Purans are meant to re-emphasize the teachings of the Vedas. So ultimately it goes back to the Vedas. So, or more so Vedanta, the Upanishads. But this is my main point of contention I have with the Hare Krishna movement, is that they're not able to see the difference. But again, I'm going to let that pass just so we can get to the scriptural evidence that he's going to talk about.
वास्तव में शब्द ब्रह्म का मतलब है उसमें वेद भी है, वेद का हिस्सा चाहे वो संहिताएं हों, ब्राह्मण हो, अरण्यक हो या उपनिषद हो, जो कि ब्रह्मचारी, गृहस्थ, वानप्रस्थ और सन्यासी इनके लिए माने जाते हैं। या फिर इसके अलावा फिर श्रुति हो, स्मृति हो, तो श्रुति में तो आते हैं वेद इत्यादि आते हैं, और इसके बाद फिर स्मृतियां भी आती हैं, फिर पुराण भी आते हैं, और अल्टीमेटली श्रीमद् भागवतम भी आता है। तो फिर
So you can't do this. This is not, in my opinion, you can't just say, oh, if Srimad Bhagavatam Ajata, or like, basically the Srimad Bhagavatam will follow. You can't say this and look credible. Surely that's where there is some hesitancy with me, but we'll let him carry on. But I must say, he's rather charismatic. I do like him as a person. I think he'll be really cool to have I guess a drink of water over, he or a cup of tea. He may drink tea.
क्या हम इसको इन टोटलिटी ऑथेंटिक माने, कैसे माने, और बड़ा सीक्वेंस क्या है? सो हम शास्त्रों पे आधारित ही इसको समझने का प्रयास करेंगे। तो ये श्लोक आता है अथर्ववेद से, 11वां स्कंद है, 11th कैंटो 7th चैप्टर 24th वर्स है। तो इस प्रकार से है, ऋचा सामानि छंदांसि पुराणम यजुषासः उच्छिष्टा जज्ञिरे सर्वे दिवि देवा दिविश्रुतः। अर्थात ऋक्, साम, छंद और यजुर्वेद के साथ ही पुराण भी उस अच्छिष्ट जगत पर शासन करने वाले यज्ञमय परमात्मा से उत्पन्न हुए। तो जो पुराण है वो भी परमात्मा से उत्पन्न हुए हैं। तो इसी प्रकार से छांदोग्य उपनिषद के अंदर भी एक और कोटेशन आती है अबाउट द ऑथेंटिसिटी ऑफ पुराणास। सो छांदोग्य उपनिषद के 7th कैंटो चैप्टर नंबर 1।
Okay, I can go for that one. The other one I couldn't. But Chandogya Upanishad I can, and this is going to be an interesting one. So he says 7.14. So I'm going to find that right now, because I have the Chandogya Upanishad. And when you say things, you have to, I want to make sure that I get the right. So he says 7.14. So, okay. So he is right, but let's first have a look at what it says. It says, indeed, the Rig Ved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharved, the four are names only, as are the ancient historical epics as the fifth. So actually, historical epics would be Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Puran is not mentioned. He's just Itihas Purana. So yeah, the Itihas Purana are not the same as Puran, in my opinion. And then it says the grammar of the Vedas, the rules of the sacrifices by which the ancestors are gratified, the science of numbers, the science of portents, the science of time, logic, ethics, etymology, Brahmavidya, the science of elemental spirits, the science of weapons, astronomy, the science of serpents, and the arts, meditate on the name. So the main thing that he's saying from this verse is he's saying, because in the I've got the transliteration, it says Itihas Purana. So when you say Itihas Purana, my view isn't that it should include the Puranas because this is when I may have an issue. So I believe the Puranas are more of a recent phenomena and not necessarily something new. And I can get that confirmed. They were I want to see. They were from. There's no time. Because my opinion would be that the Puranas will be a bit after. But okay, say even if we say we go with that. Say we go there. Hi Vikram. Say we'll go with that. Let's see what else. But even if the Puranas are mentioned, it is a fifth. And if some of you may know Jay Lakhani also talks about how the Puranas are mainly for when you're growing up, but when you get to Amogh Lila Prabhuji's age, you want to be looking at the more kind of philosophical points like the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita or the Brahma Sutras or the Vedanta Sutras. So, yeah, but okay, I'm going to let him go with that point.
वर्स नंबर 4 के अंदर आता है नामवा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदः सामवेद अथर्वणः यह चतुर्थ इतिहास पुराण पंचमो वेदानां वेद उपास्वति अर्थात ऋग्वेद यजुर्वेद सामवेद और चौथा अथर्ववेद तथा पांचवा वेदों का वेद इतिहास पुराण.
Okay. Nowhere does it say Veduka Ved. Like that is someone else's interpretation. So that's where I have a problem. You can't turn around and say that. Because again, I have the Chandogya Upanishad in front of me. And let me see. And this is where it's so yeah, there's nowhere yeah. But okay, let's carry on.
ये सब ब्रह्म रूप है, इनकी उपासना करिए. तो इस प्रकार से प्रमाण में हमको दोनों को स्वीकार करना चाहिए, यानी कि श्रुति को भी और स्मृति को भी. तो हम सोचे एक सुपीरियर है एक इंफीरियर है. वेल, इसके बारे में हम चर्चा करते हैं. सो फ्यू मोर कोटेशंस अबाउट शास्त्रास फ्रॉम द शास्त्रास. तो जो व्यक्ति इतिहास पुराण इत्यादि को नहीं मानता उसके साथ भला क्या होता है, तो इसके बारे में आ रहा है स्कंद पुराण के 5th कैंटो के चैप्टर 67.
So again, he's now going to quote a Puran, which again, if you're going to be very if you want to if you want to be unbiased, you wouldn't quote from the Puran to say the Puran are better. Or, so if he does that, that would be a red flag for me. So let's see if he does that. I want to hear his interpretation. I do really enjoy the way he expresses himself.
वर्स नंबर 31 के अंदर शिव जी बता रहे हैं देवी मां पार्वती जी को. क्या बता रहे हैं? ये निंदन्ति पुराणानि धर्मशास्त्राणि नास्तिकाः तेजान्ति नरकं घोरम यावद भूता संप्लवम. अर्थात जो नास्तिक लोग धर्मशास्त्र पुराण की निंदा करेंगे वह प्रलय काल पर्यंत नरक में ही पड़े रहेंगे.
So what he's saying that the Puran says that if you're a Gnostic, then meaning you're an atheist. Now I'm going to just pause for a second. Gnostic actually means that person who doesn't believe in the Vedas. Okay, so to really understand what Shivji just said there in the Skanda Purana is, if you do not believe in the authenticity of the Veda, this is what he's saying, then you will live in hell, meaning you won't go to hell, you're living in hell, meaning that you will not live a life of virtue or a life where there is, I would say, ananda, bliss, which is guaranteed if you follow the teachings of the Veda. So again, I know where he's going to go with this, so I'm going to entertain him for a second. But Gnostic does not mean someone who does not believe in God. So, and then if he's going to talk about that, well, he then has to explain, well, what is God? Who is God? And he has to explain this.
तो इसलिए हमें पुराणों को भी स्वीकार करना चाहिए। पुराण जो कि पूर्ण बनाते हैं या पूर्ण नव, जो रिपीटेडली न्यू हैं, उनको बोलते हैं पुराण।
Repeatedly new. Okay, this is my problem. Purana actually means old, ancient. So I guess he could turn around and claim that it means that, but that's not the interpretation a lot of us give. Purana means old, ancient. So, yeah, not a point that I agree with. He didn't really explain that verse either properly yet, so maybe he will explain it now.
तो हमारे 18 पुराण हैं। 18 पुराणों में से जो 6 पुराण हैं वो तमोगुणी लोगों के लिए हैं, 6 पुराण रजोगुणी लोगों के लिए हैं, 6 पुराण सत्वगुणी लोगों के लिए हैं। और इनमें जो सत्वगुणी पुराण है, इनकी ऑथेंटिसिटी ज्यादा मानी जाती है, बिकॉज एज पर भगवद गीता सत्वा संजायते ज्ञानम, क्योंकि सत्वगुण से ज्ञान की प्राप्ति होती है।
Okay, so he's right that the Bhagavad Gita does talk about how Sattva Gun gives you higher knowledge, and what he's saying that with the 18 Puranas, they're broken up according to the nature of elements. So Sattva Gun, Rajas Gun, Tamas Gun. And he's saying there's 6 that are Sattva Gun. I guess he's going to say Srimad Bhagavatam is in the Sattva Gun. This is where it's all leading up to. So I kind of see where he's going. But again, he's not really explained what that Skanda Purana verse meant properly. It was, I don't know, maybe I didn't feel it was a strong point, but yeah, what do you mean by they go to hell? Like, you didn't even explain this. Rightly said, Jay Lakhani ji. Thank you, Vikramji, for this. Gave the example of Mahabharati as cat, which Ganesh ji beats, and then see his mom's bleeding, and then she told him that I'm in everyone. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. For example, it's a story to highlight that everyone. Yeah, I agree.
तो इसीलिए अगर कोई भी चीज कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट करती है इन पुराणों के अंदर, तो जो सात्विक पुराण है उनकी ऑथेंटिसिटी ज्यादा मानी जाती है। तो सात्विक पुराण में भला कौन कौन से पुराण आते हैं? भागवत पुराण, गरुड़ पुराण, पद्म पुराण, वराह पुराण, नारदीय पुराण एवं विष्णु पुराण। तो इस प्रकार से ये 6 पुराण हैं, दे कंटेन द हाईएस्ट अथॉरिटी। हालांकि जो सत्वगुणी पुराण है उनके अंदर भगवान विष्णु का गुणगान है, रजोगुणी पुराण है उनमें ब्रह्मा जी का गुणगान है, और जो तामसिक पुराण है उनमें शिव जी का और अग्निदेव का गुणगान मिलता है। और जो उप पुराण है,
So all the other Puranas, by the way, so if you believe in Shiv Puran, well, it's full of tamasic, so it's not as high, is what he is saying. I don't think my friends who follow Shivji and that tradition will agree. I don't know. It's the first time I ever heard about them being broken up in that light, so that's new for me. Has anyone else heard that the Puranas have been broken up according to Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas? I'd be interested to know if that's the case and if any of you have heard of that. The other thing is, I wonder where he's going to go with all this. I want to know, because he hasn't really got to the point yet.
उनमें सरस्वती देवी और इत्यादि देवी देवताओं का भी गुणगान मिलता है, लेकिन हाईएस्ट ऑथेंटिसिटी किसकी मानी जाती है? सत्वा संजायते ज्ञानम। यस, तो भला इन शास्त्रों की
So the other thing that he says, is that this is ISKCON. Okay, yeah, I thought so. The other thing that he says is that the Purana they don't have any contradiction. I don't necessarily agree. I have read the Srimad Bhagavatam many years ago, and I remember seeing inconsistencies. And the inconsistencies are there not because they are inconsistent, actually. It's more to do with the fact that it's trying to explain things to a wider audience. So it has to try to get people onto the same page. So, and with these texts, they're not meant to be just read once, right? So they're meant to be read a number of times as you grow spiritually. So, in that sense, if you're growing spiritually, you'll read the Srimad Bhagavatam differently as you would have 5 years ago. And you may disagree with elements that you found amazing previously. So there will be this change that will occur. But I don't think this nuance is really felt with genuinely people from ISKCON. I don't know about Prabhuji here, whether he feels the same way, but so far, in 6 minutes, this is normally when I make my judgment. In 6 minutes, he hasn't said anything which has made me feel that Acharya Prashant Ji is not telling the truth or isn't, or has told something that is inconsistent. And in fact, yeah. So anyway, let's carry on.
सीक्वेंस कैसे है इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑथेंटिसिटी, तो इस बारे में स्कंद पुराण से एक बहुत ही अच्छा श्लोक आता है, इसको आप स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं.
Oh, but that's funny. Like he, so when he's talking about authenticity, it's like basically, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot when you're doing something like this, by saying one Purana is saying this is how the authenticity should be. Like, it's like, for example, if the Chandogya Upanishad said, "Oh, the most authentic Upanishad is the Mandukya Upanishad," that would be ridiculous, and that is inconsistent. That would be the number one sign of inconsistency. So, in his point, the Purana are inconsistent. If they're saying one is better than the other, if you're saying that the Purana are Veduka Ved, the Vedas of the Vedas, then I'm sorry, but it seems that one is more inauthentic. Good to see you too, Gaiji. Nice to have you here.
वेदवन निश्चलम मन्ये पुराणार्थ द्विजुत्तमाम वेदा प्रतिष्ठा सर्वे पुराणे नात्र संशय, यानी वेद इत्यादि प्रतिष्ठित हो रहे हैं तो किसमें हो रहे हैं? पुराणों में प्रतिष्ठित हो रहे हैं. अच्छा, इनकी भला
yeah, and I would agree. Principles of the Vedas are in the Puranas as stories. So from the Puranas, what you're meant to take is a philosophy, not take the stories literally. That's like me actually believing in Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and that story actually happened. The main message that I should get from that story is live life in balance. Yeah, that's ultimately what I should get. But if I start thinking, well, there's someone called Goldilocks, and there are three bears, and this really happened. Come on, man. Be realistic. So, but yes, if you're talking about the essence of the Vedas, yes, even I agree on this point. You can find them in the Purana, but again, I come down to discernment. You need discernment of the real and the unreal, the changing and the changeless, in order to get there. But yeah. But this is something the Bhakti movements or the Bhakti traditions don't want you to do, because it's not necessary for devotion. Which again, that's their tradition, and there's no problem with that. It's just not what I agree with.
किस प्रकार से इनको समझें, इनकी श्रेष्ठता किस प्रकार से? तो ये आता 42वां श्लोक है. ये इस प्रकार से बताया रहा है, यन्ना
No, Dustianaji, I unfortunately don't believe in Goldilocks, and I could be in trouble for that. So yeah, don't tell people on Twitter. I might get banned from Elon Musk.
दृष्टम ही वेदेषु तदृष्टम स्मृतेषु द्विजा, यानी जो चीज वेदों में नहीं दी गई है वो कहां दी गई है, वो तो स्मृतियों में दी गई है.
I disagree. He's saying that whatever has not been said in the Vedas is in the Smritis. No, I actually disagree on that point. And I know it's a Purana that's talking about it, but that's why I can disagree. A Puran is not the same as the Vedas. Nowhere in the Vedas does it say the Puranas will have what is not in the Vedas. This is ridiculous. But okay, I will go as far as here. If one person can prove to me one point that is in the Puranas, a philosophical point, not a story, a philosophical point that is in the Puranas but not in the Vedas, I would like to know that, and we can have a discussion on that. So that's one point I will make.
उभ्रियो न दृष्टम ही तत्पुराणे प्रगीयते, और जो स्मृतियों में नहीं मिलता है फिर वो पुराणों में मिलता है. और अगला श्लोक इस प्रकार से, यो वेद चतुरो वेदान संगोपनिषदो द्विजा पुराणम नैव जानाति न च सस्याद विचक्षणः. अर्थात जिसने वेद इत्यादि पढ़े लेकिन पुराणों को नहीं पढ़ा हुआ है, तो ऐसे व्यक्ति को हमें पंडित या फिर लर्नर्ड स्कॉलर नहीं मानना चाहिए. तो
So if you've not read the Puran and you've only read the Vedas, you're not a full scholar. But isn't it funny? We talk about Vedic scholars. So I don't know where he's coming up with this. Again, Skand Purana, am I going to take that literally? No, but he obviously is. And but yeah, I completely disagree. I think you can be a scholar. In fact, I would say the person who really is a scholar is that who understands the essence of the Upanishads. And whoever understands the essence of the Upanishads will understand the Bhagavad Gita and even the Puranas properly. That's so yeah.
पुराण यानी कि दे कंटेन दी हाईएस्ट अथॉरिटी. तो अगर कोई प्रोफेसर साहब है जो उपनिषद पढ़ाते हैं तो बहुत ही अच्छी बात है, हमें जान के बड़ी खुशी हुई. लेकिन अगर कोई सारी सीक्वेंस को देखें शास्त्रों में, तो श्रुति है, श्रुति में वेद इत्यादि आते हैं, उसमें उपनिषद भी उनका पार्ट है. और जो इनमें नहीं दिया गया है, यानी मोर एडवांस नॉलेज जो है वो मिलती है फिर स्मृतियों में, और स्मृतियों में जो नहीं दिया गया वो दिया गया पुराणों में.
So he's claiming that the Puran are basically is like the evolution of the Vedas. This is problematic in itself. I disagree with this quite a bit, but I'll let him continue because there's a lot to go through.
पुराणों में भी सर्वश्रेष्ठ कौन है? जो सात्विक पुराण है. अच्छा, फिर ये सात्विक पुराण वाला सर्वश्रेष्ठ,
and he hasn't quoted where this is from. Like this Satvik Puran, I've not. Again, he's not quoted where directly that is from. So I'm not. He's talking about references. Where's his reference for that? And I agree, a scholar often means you're still studying too.
कौन सा है? So here comes very beautiful verse from पद्म पुराण. पुराणेषु तु सर्वेषु श्रीमद् भागवतम परम यात्रपति पदम कृष्ण गीयते भृदर्षभि, यानी सारे पुराणों में सर्वश्रेष्ठ है श्रीमद् भागवतम पुराणम, जिसमें कि भगवान श्री कृष्ण का गुणगान मिलता है. तो इसलिए सात्विक पुराणों में जो परमहंस पुराण है, यानी कि जो निर्गुण है, दिव्य है, यानी प्रकृति के 3 गुणों के परे है, वो है श्रीमद् भागवतम.
So he's claiming Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme. I'm not going to disagree with that. If that's someone's faith, that's fine. And there's a lot of wonderful things to learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam for sure. So, but let's see. But again, he hasn't really addressed Acharyaji's point. So it's even with the scriptural references, they're very selected and not necessarily one where I would say tomorrow I'll pick up the Bhagavatam over an Upanishad. So, yeah.
पुराणम. तो इस प्रकार से एस्टेब्लिश हो जाता है that okay, yes, we can quote from the Shrutis and the Smritis, and ultimately Srimad Bhagavatam carry the highest authority. So now we'll take one by one argument.
So the highest authority according to him, or that tradition, is basically the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the ultimate. That's the highest. I don't agree. I don't see anything as higher and lower in this. Let me just say that the Srimad Bhagavatam explains aspects of the Upanishad really well. That's the biggest concession I will make. But will I say it's the Uttam Gyanam? Is it the highest Gyan? Well, I say the Upanishads also has the highest Gyan, has the highest knowledge. So, yeah, I disagree with him that the ultimate, the highest is the Srimad Bhagavatam. I would say, if you really want to say what is the highest, it is Vedant. It is whatever is considered Vedant. So Bhagavad Gita, mainly for me, be Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras, or Vedanta Sutras.
जो कि आचार्य प्रशांत जी के फॉलोअर्स ने प्रस्तुत किए, जस्ट टू क्लैरिफाई द डाउट, और कुछ भी नहीं. सो सबसे पहले तो कोटेशन था जिसमें कि मैं बोल रहा हूं कि अबाउट आचार्य प्रशांत जी, हु हैज गिवन हिम दिस अथॉरिटी ऑफ आचार्य. तो उसके लिए फिर आचार्य जी का एक जोश टॉक से एक वीडियो क्लिप निकाली गई कि जहां बोल रहे हैं जो पढ़ाता है वो आचार्य है.
पढ़ाता है, जो शिक्षक होता है उसको आचार्य बोलते हैं. बहुत सीधी सी बात है. जैसे
Acharya does mean teacher. Acharya ji is actually right there. So yeah.
अंग्रेजी में सर चलता है, वैसे ही हिंदी में आचार्य कहा जा सकता है. तो आचार्य प्रशांत हो गया.
Oh gosh.
Okay. तो जो पढ़ाता है वैसे वो अध्यापक होता है, टीचर होता है. आचार्य जो है ना इज वेरी वेरी एक्सॉल्टेड स्ट्रेचर. ऑल्दो निश्चित रूप से आप जो पढ़ा रहे हैं हम उसकी प्रशंसा करते हैं.
No, not necessarily. The highest tends to be a Paramhansa or avatar, obviously. Acharya ji actually can mean teacher. So a really ridiculous point made by Prabhuji here. I don't agree with him. This seems to be a personal thing, and there's no real point there.
लेकिन आचार्य इज समथिंग वेरी हाई क्लास. जैसे रामानुजाचार्य, मध्वाचार्य, निम्बार्काचार्य, आदि शंकराचार्य. आचार्य is for some extraordinary personalities actually. तो इसीलिए जैसे हमारे से लोग हैं, well, आचार्य, हम तो आचार्यों के सेवक.
I agree. I mean, he's showing his humility, and I agree with what he's saying, but I don't think Acharya Prashant is saying that he's on that level of Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, or anything like that. I don't think he is saying that. So to even equate the two is far-fetched, and also very, it's pretty much of a low blow, to be honest. It's not, it doesn't stand on 2 feet, what he's saying. So yeah.
इसीलिए जैसे हमारे से लोग हैं, well, आचार्य, हम तो आचार्यों के सेवकों के सेवक हो सकें, ये हमारा बड़ा सौभाग्य होगा.
So he's saying sevak, meaning servant of the servants of those that are acharyas. Well, in that case, you can be the servant of Acharya Prashant, according to your interpretation.
तो इसलिए आचार्य भला हम किसको पुकार सकते हैं? Anybody who teaches is आचार्य. Well, let's see one quotation from Shastra. So यजुर्वेद से है, Canto 3, Chapter 3, verse number 1. यद्दहि आचरस्य शुचिर भवति तद्दहि विद्याणां शुचिर भवति. इसकी ट्रांसलेशन इस प्रकार से है, when the acharya is pure, then the knowledge imparted by him becomes pure.
Okay, so let's just go back a bit there. Let's just pause it there. So when the acharya is pure, then the knowledge imparted by him becomes pure. So again, it doesn't say Acharya has to be pure. What one means by pure is very subjective. But when I see someone saying Acharya is pure, meaning that they have understood that they are nirgun, they are attributeless, they are that witness consciousness. That's what I consider when a teacher considers themselves as pure. That's what I think it means. Then the knowledge imparted by them, so that whatever knowledge that they give becomes pure. But I would say the knowledge they give is pure. I wouldn't say becomes pure. I would say it is pure because they are higher beings anyway. So again, in Acharya Prashant ji's defense, before we hear from Prabhuji, he does talk about the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about the Upanishads, as well as talking about the problems that people have today. So, yes, he is talking about pure things. The knowledge he's giving is pure, because he's talking about the Gita, the Upanishads. So, but what is his counter argument? What is Prabhuji's counter argument? Let's see.
Is pure, then the knowledge imparted by him becomes pure. तो यहां बताया जा रहा है कि आचार्य को he should be pure. But we saw unfortunately some of the pics of Acharya Prashant ji smoking. देखिए बहुत दुख हुआ जो लोग इसका मुद्दा बना रहे थे कि हाँ तो धूम.
Okay, so this is when I know that he's doing things in bad faith and bad actor. It's like if anyone turns around and says, you didn't have to show those pictures, and what you're claiming is that anyone that smokes is impure. So is Nisargadatta Maharaj impure now? Are the Naga Babas, are the Avadut Babas, are they all impure now? So he's being really inconsistent. This type of purity that he's talking about is very external. You don't eat meat, you don't drink alcohol, you don't do these things. But that has nothing to do with spirituality. But again, those things are not prescribed. We don't tell people to do that. I understand that, and I agree with him on that point. If you say that the Shastras say that this does not help you for the majority of the cases, but to put some pictures up that Acharyaji has not spoken about is ridiculous. And then he's talking about smoking being bad. Well, there are foods that are bad, like junk food today, which I think sometimes is just as bad. So yeah, I think that for me was the first point to say, like, to show those pictures to me shows that you're in there for the gossip, man. You're in there for the gossip. You're gossiping. If you really cared, if he thinks that this was a strong point, he should have had Acharyaji. Well, let's see. I doubt he's going to do this, but Acharyaji should have spoken about this, or he should ask the question and have had the answer from Acharyaji before showing that. But yeah, so like I said, if you're saying that people smoking hookah or weed or drinking alcohol or whatever is bad, then if you follow Nisargadatta Maharaj, you're impure. Your teacher's impure, apparently, according to him. Don't come to me. Go to him. And if you have anyone, and Shivji, kind of has been highlighted to smoke marijuana. Now he's also impure. One thing they don't tell you, because they promote a vegetarian lifestyle. Again, whatever you eat is up to you. But Sri Krishna was a warrior and most likely ate meat, because meat isn't vegetarianism isn't prescribed in the Vedas, which so again, I go to the point of who does he consider to be impure? Like, what does he consider to be impure? But yeah, little gossip boy. I think he makes Acharya more cool, in my opinion, but that's me.
बहुत दुख हुआ जो लोग इसका मुद्दा बना रहे थे कि हाँ तो धूम्र सत्य है, जगत मिथ्या है, ब्रह्म सत्य जगत मिथ्या नहीं है। ये देखकर हमें बहुत दुख हुआ कि जो व्यक्ति लोगों को अच्छी बातें बता रहा है उसका इस प्रकार से उपहास उड़ाना गलत बात है। हम प्रार्थना करें भगवान से निश्चित रूप से कि अगर ऐसी कोई आदत है भी उनको निकलने की शक्ति दे। जैसे
like, this is my thing. I go, if he has this adat, this habit, that he goes out of it, that's a holier than thou attitude. One thing that I dislike. Just, it's really ridiculous.
लोगों को अच्छी बातें बता रहा है उसका इस प्रकार से उपहास उड़ाना गलत बात है। हम
But one thing he does say, I'm going to defend him, is that he does say that people shouldn't. So, okay, this is the point. So he shows those pictures, and then he says those people that are making fun of those pictures, that's wrong. Make that make sense. But yeah, anyway, happy Hanuman Jayanti to you too, Gaiji. I hope Hanumanji blesses everyone with the right buddhi, the right intellect to deal with these things.
हम प्रार्थना करें भगवान से निश्चित रूप से कि अगर ऐसी कोई आदत है भी उनको निकलने की शक्ति दे। जैसे भगवान श्री कृष्ण गीता में कह रहे हैं चैप्टर 9 वर्स नंबर 30 के अंदर अपि चेत्सु दुराचारो भजते माम अनन्य भाग साधुरेव समन्तव्य सम्यक व्यवस्थो हि सा। यानी ऐसे व्यक्ति को जो कि मेरे भक्ति भजन में लगा हुआ है उसको साधु मानो, उससे गलती अगर हो गई है तो निश्चित रूप से अगर आपसे ऐसी गलती हो जाती है कभी कभी तो हम प्रार्थना करते हैं कि आप इस आदत से बाहर निकल सकें और साथ ही आपकी हेल्थ के लिए प्रार्थना करते हैं क्योंकि स्मोकिंग से क्या होता है।
This is ridiculous. This guy is okay. So he talks about 9:30, and let's go to this verse because he doesn't explain it properly. So let me say what it is to you. So even if a person purposely causes harm to others and their actions are still flawed, but they are trying to be devoted to me in Bhakti Yoga, I consider them to be on the right path in spite of their imperfections. Where does Shri Krishna say smoking is bad? That he's implying? He's implying this. All I'm saying, where in the scripture does it say that smoking is bad? So that's bad faith and bad. That's just not. That's just really bad.
होता है हमारे फेफड़ों की जो मूवमेंट्स है वो कमजोर होती हैं। वो चाहे आप हुक्का लें या फिर वीड लें या फिर सिगरेट पिए, बीड़ी इत्यादि, इन सब के धुएं से हमारी जो लंग्स की मूवमेंट कमजोर होती है।
Our lungs get weakened by smoking, so this is what he's saying. But again, that's got nothing to do with the Bhagavad Gita quote.
So that means your age would come down और आपके फॉलोअर्स को इससे बहुत दुख होगा। तो हम ऐसा बिल्कुल
But okay, he's saying that the followers are upset by Acharya Ji's pictures. I saw the pictures, didn't bother me, and I'm not a follower, but let him do whatever he wants. I mean, who are we to quoting that? So I think him being on his moral high horse is ridiculous. It's not proper.
नहीं चाहते। हम चाहते हैं आपकी लंबी आयु हो, अच्छा स्वास्थ्य हो, लेकिन उसके लिए स्मोकिंग जैसी आदत को छोड़ना आपके लिए बहुत अच्छा रहेगा।
So he's saying he should get rid of this smoking habit that he has. Does Acharya Ji have a smoking habit? Do we know this for sure? No. So this is gossip. Just seeing one picture. This tells me you are not intellectually all there, because just by seeing one picture doesn't mean that you are that you smoke all the time. To make to infer such a point is ridiculous, but also you don't know for a fact if Acharya Ji smokes. And there have also been cases where you have people, I'm reading a book right now about longevity, and there's people who have been smoking all their lives that live up to 90, 100. Not everyone dies young. So, and then to say that, Acharya is going to die young because he's smoking, as you saw on the pictures, this is ridiculous. It's like, for example, if I see Prabhuji, or if I see somebody eat meat, do I know that they eat meat every day, all the time? No. I can't make that judgment. What makes him? He's meant to be a teacher, this guy. How can he make such an inference that Acharya smokes just from one picture? Maybe he's extrapolating the idea of taking care of the gross body. Yeah, and I would agree with that. Take care of the gross body. I do agree with taking care of the physical body, but to make the judgment that Acharya smokes all the time is something I don't like. It's like he's entertaining that gossip, those videos or pictures, whatever it was. So that's what I don't like. That's what I think is why it's a ridiculous point.
तो इसीलिए दैट फेज हमारे जो आचरण है एकदम शुद्ध होना चाहिए टू बी एन आचार्य. बल्कि शुद्ध आचरण भी अपने आप में काफी नहीं होता. somebody having lot of bhakti, lot of spirituality.
So according to him, an acharya is someone who has lots of bhakti. But what if they're Jnani Bhakt? What if they're more into meditation and not into bhakti?
और उसमें लेश मात्र भी कोई दोष ना हो, लेश मात्र भी, ऐसे व्यक्ति को फिर आचार्य माना जा सकता है.
See, so what he's saying that someone shouldn't have a bit of a blemish to their way of life. Nobody should point a finger. This is difficult in the world. It's a challenge, and what is good for somebody is not good for somebody else. So it's all very subjective. For example, the Pope, I'm sure, drinks red wine or wine. Does that mean that now he's impure? According to him, that would be the case. So because it causes liver damage. I mean, listening to this kind of is giving me brain damage. Is that bad?
So एक और जो कोटेशन आती है अबाउट आचार्य, आचार्य की डेफिनेशन भला क्या है, वो इस प्रकार से है. तो ये जो शब्द आचार्य है ये बना है चर धातु से और आ उपसर्ग से. सो चर का मतलब होता है चेष्टायाम यानी कि बिहेवियर, और दूसरा है भक्षणे अर्थात ईटिंग यानी कि खाना पीना. तो हमारा व्यवहार और साथ ही खाना पीना, तो ये दोनों ही जब शुद्ध होते हैं तो ऐसा व्यक्ति आचार्य कहलाया जा सकता है. So this quotation was from Panini, और इसके पहले की जो हमने quotation ली that was from Yajurved. तो इस प्रकार से this is the definition of Acharya.
Okay, so let me just go back a bit to look at that. Again, behavior in eating. Again, does it mean that someone, is that everything you're going to take from someone? Have a look at their knowledge. And then these one thing is Acharya Prashant is vegan. He's big on the vegan thing. So you've not talked about that at all, which I find again to be not great. So it's controlled or restricted with Shastra, and one who follows this is yeah. I mean, I personally think if it's just based on behavior and eating, I would say that's one aspect. I wouldn't say it's everything. But
तो ऐसा व्यक्ति आचार्य कहलाया जा सकता है. So this quotation was from Panini, और इसके पहले की जो हमने quotation ली that was from Yajurved. तो इस प्रकार से this is the definition of Acharya. So इसीलिए आचार्य हम खुद को नहीं बुला सकते. जैसे हम लोग जैसे प्रभु बोलते हैं, प्रभु, somebody can call me प्रभु, पर मैं बोलूं I am Amogh Lila Prabhu, that's wrong.
So Okay, but you have got. I mean, the title has Amogh Lila Prabhu, and again, you're saying that Acharya Prashant has called himself Acharya Prashant. What if other people have called him that? So that's okay if other people call him that. But you got it in your title here. It says Amogh Lila Prabhu. It says very clearly. So it's fine for you to do it, but not someone else. That's hypocrisy. If you don't see yourself as that name, well, one, you definitely changed your name. And two, if Acharya Prashant has been called that, what's the problem? So, but yeah, it can't be one rule for one and another for another person. That's ridiculous.
कल को मुझसे पूछेगा ना, who are you? I'll say I'm Amogh Lila Das.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
हम तो प्रभु के दास हैं. So that is my identity, that I am दास. तो अगर कोई व्यक्ति मुझे प्रभु बोलता है, मुझे सम्मान देता है, तो ये उसकी भावना है. लेकिन मेरे को खुद को प्रभु नहीं मानना चाहिए. Yes, मुझे तो खुद को क्या मानना चाहिए? दास ही मानना चाहिए.
Okay, so that's nice. People. But again, there's a problem here, and I'll come to this. He says that when someone speaks to him, he refers to himself as Das, even though people can call him Prabhu, but he should see himself as Das. That's nice. But if you really believe you're a Das, you will not even allow that Prabhu name there in the first place. Why entertain it if you don't like it? This makes no sense at all. It really lacks common sense now. Someone has asked about does meditation increase intellect or retaining capacity of mind? And yes, if how much time for studying purpose? I would say just start first small. Meditation just helps focus. But again, it's about what you focus upon, which is more important in meditation. But if you're doing it for mindfulness in terms of just for studying, then just do it for 5-10 minutes. That's fine. Yeah, he's definitely inferring a lot. I don't recall if Catholics are transubstantiation or not. If they are, then the Pope drinks blood, not red wine. Oh, yeah. Oh, I get you. Yeah, sorry. It's not wine. You're so flustered. No, I'm actually still calm. This guy hasn't. I'm still tolerating him. At the moment I'm flustered, I probably won't even listen anymore. So, but yeah, it's just that he's not. My main issue is that he's not seeing his own flaws. He's not seeing his own inconsistencies. The words that he's used before.
तो इसलिए आचार्य प्रशांत में जो आचार्य हैं, right from very beginning this name has been used when he was not so popular on YouTube. So that means originally somewhere this tag got associated with him, whether चाहे उन्होंने खुद ने इस्तेमाल किया हो या फिर or some other way, whatever it is. लेकिन आचार्य की definition means आचार्य is very very exalted personality. हम और
But so is Prabhu. Like Prabhu is very high too. Prabhu is a high title too. Prabhu is what we refer to the Lord. Okay, man, you just really don't see. This is what happens, I think, when you're in an echo chamber. You can't see outside your own ego. In my point, that he has an ego here. But yeah, I mean, he accepts that Acharya Prashant could have been given it from somewhere, but he says he's had this name from the very beginning. Okay, but again, doesn't mean anything.
आप जैसे लोग आचार्य नहीं हो सकते, हम तो आचार्यों के सेवक हो सकते हैं, not more than that. So yes, but he will respect you as a teacher, but acharya is something very exalted, so it cannot be used for any ordinary person.
Okay, so should Acharya Prashant now call himself Teacher Prashant? Is that better for him? So can he then change all of his titles on his videos and say Amogh Lila Das and not Prabhu? I mean, he has said he considers himself the Das, so we should see this. Come on. At least live up to what you're saying instead of just talking about it and then pretending other people should follow.
तो कुछ ऐसे वीडियो भी थे जिसमें कि वो सिगरेट स्मोक कर रहे हैं या भौतिक गानों पे डांस कर रहे हैं.
Okay, if the guy is dancing, what's his problem? Because he's dancing to some worldly songs is what his issue is. But, you know, I don't think the music is that great personally, but yeah, if someone wants to dance to that music, let it be, man. Like, what's your problem? He's got some moves.
तो इसलिए मतलब कीर्तन में डांस करें तो समझ में आता है भगवान के नाम पे कीर्तन में डांस करना वो तो.
Oh, to dance on the kirtan's fine, but to dance anyway is really bad. Like, that is wrong. When this Lord was giving out intellect, where were you, Amogh Lila Prabhu? Where were you? Sorry, Amogh Lila Das, where were you?
स्वयं श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने भी नृत्य किया है, लेकिन सांसारिक गानों पे डांस करना निश्चित रूप से एक स्पिरिचुअल टीचर को बिल्कुल भी सूट नहीं करता.
So I want us to see this is spiritual ego. To dance on worldly songs is bad, but you can dance on spiritual songs. So if you listen to worldly songs, not good. There's so much wrong with this. I mean, and actually, I think Acharya Prashant would actually agree with him on this point that the worldly songs carry a certain energy. But again, if I have to think from a discernment point of view, dancing is dancing. Music is a language that transcends a lot of our boundaries that we have and the limitations that we have. So, yeah, I like exactly what you said, Dylanji. But let me read what Gaiji just said. Someone's opinion of me is none of my business or anyone else's. That teaching might help him. But you know, Amogh Lila Prabhu or Das will not agree with you. This guy reminds me of Asian aunties telling your parents when they see you outside in public. Yeah, and Lord Shiva dances to keep the universe afloat. Exactly. And what music could that be? I mean, so for example, let me put it this way: if someone can get to a meditative place listening to trance music, house music, to rap, what's the problem? So Sri Krishna dances to all the sounds of everything. Yeah, I agree. This guy, this is the height of spiritual ego. I'm telling you. So yeah, now if any of you see me dancing to any Punjabi music or Bollywood music, I shouldn't do this podcast. You know, I shouldn't call myself bearded mystic. But yeah, enjoy Dusty. Have a great time at work. Love you too, and hopefully see you again soon. And you can catch this. This will stay on. But yeah, this is actually really good fun. And Dasyanergy, don't dance to the music in Target. Do not dance at your place of work, because that will be bad. You will accumulate bad karma from that. So,
तो ये जो हमने देखा था हमारे अंदर बहुत दुख हुआ हमें कि जो इनसे सुनने वाले हैं उनकी श्रद्धा में
he felt a lot of pain. Amogh Lila ji, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says you should be beyond sukh and dukh. but it brings you great pain that you saw Acharya Prashant dancing to some interesting music elsewhere. How sad. I feel for you.
भला क्या बीतेगी?
Oh, yeah.
So इससे बहुत कष्ट होता है जब
What will happen to his followers, Acharya Prashant's followers, if he saw? In my opinion, Acharya Prashant should be given more views on YouTube because it shows how normal he is. How he shows enlightenment is not some special thing, but something that me and you can experience living in the world, not in some temple where you do not go out and see the world. How do you know what the world is going through? Amogh Lila ji, how do you know? If you're just being in your temple, just because you travel to different temples doesn't mean you're traveling in the world. Doesn't mean that you know what's going on in the world. Just because you read a newspaper doesn't mean you're living in the world. Or you read something on Google about what's happening in the world. My opinion.
फॉलोअर्स देखते हैं, अरे यार हमारे गुरुजी की टीचिंग्स उनके खुद के ऊपर काम नहीं कर रही, हमारे ऊपर कैसे काम करेंगी? तो
Oh my god, like, this guy is really like next level. So now he's saying that just because of that dancing video, yeah, that Acharya Prashant, the followers will be like, oh, look, how can our Guruji be, look, our Guruji's not even following his own teachings. Where's this guy come up with this? Like, just say that this is your feelings and it would actually be a lot better. But to superimpose that this is what Acharya Prashant's followers think is such an egoic move. This is what is called blinded by the light. You may be surrounded by Krishna, but you do not understand Krishna at all. I mean, in my opinion, Krishna would be a rap artist if he was alive today, because he will understand the need of the time. And this would be something fun for some of us to have a look at. See if there's any Hare Krishna rap videos like the ISKCON. Because if there is, my man needs to sort his own home out before he looks at anyone else's.
समझदार लोग होते हैं ना, वो लोग फिर उनका दिल टूट जाता है, श्रद्धा बिखर जाती है उनकी। तो इसलिए हमें जब हम कभी स्पिरिचुअल टीचर की सेवा करते हैं तो बड़ी ऊंची सेवा है, इसके लिए अपने चरित्र के ऊपर सुपर डुपर ध्यान रखना पड़ता है। लेकिन हम निश्चित रूप से ऐसे लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि निंदा ना करें, प्रार्थना।
He's saying to other people, don't gossip. My man's just spent 5 minutes gossiping and now he's telling people not to gossip. What logic, man.
करें आचार्य प्रशांत जी के लिए, एक तो उनके अच्छे स्वास्थ्य के लिए, साथ ही उनकी इस आदत के लिए प्रार्थना कर सकते हैं हम लोग। That's a positive way of seeing the...
Yeah, everyone must pray for Acharya Prashant's health just because of that one smoking picture that he saw, or the smoking pictures that he saw. And and dancing. Dancing is good for the health.
The whole thing, but निंदा इत्यादि हमें नहीं करनी चाहिए।
Yeah. He says ninda, not to do ninda, not to do gossiping. My man has just spent on one picture, gossiped about it all. He's not checked whether it's true. He's not checked if it's been photoshopped. He's not checked if it's AI. So many things can happen today. He's not checked if and then he superimposed what the followers should feel. Those are massive red flags. If you follow this Amogh Lila Prabhu, not Acharya Prashant, Amogh Lila Prabhu, I would strongly suggest you revisit the Bhagavad Gita through a proper teacher outside of ISKCON. Yeah, he is ISKCON. He's very much ISKCON.
कौड़ी के नियम कायदे हम पे थोड़ी लागू होते हैं। हमारे साथ ये उम्मीदें मत रख लेना। अरे फकीराना ठाठ होते हैं, आज़ाद लहरें होती हैं, जैसा सहज स्वभाव में आता है वैसा जीते हैं। आध्यात्मिक आदमी जानते हो कौन होता है जिसने किसी के भी हिसाब से चलना बंद कर दिया?
So what Acharya ji is saying is that basically a fakir is known as someone who walks the land. He is free from rules. That is really what a fakir is. If you look at Kabirji, seen as a fakir, Shirdi Sai Baba, the first one, he's seen as a fakir. Fakir are people who live very freely, very openly, and they have no restrictions. So he's explained it correctly. Nothing wrong with his description, but I'm sure Prabhu will have something to say about that. Teachers are the idols. Certainly, Krishna is a poet, so he's likely to be a rapper today. Yep, absolutely. Teachers are the idols we look upon, so good behavior is accepted by the students. Okay, so this is my so Vikramji, I do agree with you. What I will say is, again, what do we consider to be good behavior? For me, I don't actually care about someone's personal life, in my opinion, more than how do they interpret the teachings and how do they make the teachings more approachable, accessible. And Acharya Prashant has done a great job of that. As I was saying to someone at work, he's like the next Osho in that sense. But anyway, we'll go back to this point of but yeah, teachers should hold, and I agree with you that teachers should have good behavior, but I think there's a certain amount of ethics. But if a teacher smokes a cigarette, I don't think they should be considered a bad teacher or it's bad behavior, that's really ridiculous.
तो यहाँ आचार्य प्रशांत जी बोल रहे हैं कि तुम्हारे 2 कौड़े के नियम कायदे मेरे पे लागू नहीं होते। निश्चित रूप से ऐसा जो व्यक्ति जो भक्ति में बहुत ही बड़ा चढ़ा है, उस पर कोई नियम इत्यादि लागू नहीं होते, हालांकि फिर भी वो नियम का पालन करता है टू सेट अप गुड एग्जाम्पल। लेकिन जो एकदम मदहोश होता है, जो भक्ति में बहुत ही बड़ा चढ़ा है, स्पिरिचुअलिटी में बहुत ही बड़ा चढ़ा है, भला उसका भाव कैसा होता है? तो और वो उस वक्त क्या कर रहा होता है? ऐसा है कि वो कहीं पे भी लेटा होता है, झरने किनारे बैठा हुआ है और कुछ भी खाता पीता है, ऐसा क्या? वेल, इस संदर्भ में बहुत ही अच्छा श्लोक आता है श्रीमद् भागवतम के 11th कैंटो के 2nd.
Okay. So let me just go over what he has said. He's disagreeing with what Acharya ji is saying about what a fakir is. Mind you, Acharya ji mentioned the word fakir. So I want us to note that he mentioned that word. He has not addressed that word. He's just said anyone who is high in devotion is said to set a good example. Yes, set a good example in what? What does enlightenment mean? Enlightenment should mean that someone does good deeds, they care about people. Not once has he mentioned right now that Acharya ji talks about the implications of exploiting animals. He has not addressed this. He's ignored this fact. I just want us to note this. He's totally ignored it till now. In 14 minutes, he has not mentioned this once. That's a problem.
चैप्टर के 40th वर्स में ये श्लोक इस प्रकार से है। एवं व्रता स्वप्रिय नाम कीर्तया जातानुरागोधुत चित्त उच्चय हसत्याथो रोदिति रौति गायत्य उन्मादवन नित्यादि लोक भायः. By chanting the holy name of Supreme Lord, one comes.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it because I think I may have a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I think this is when things can get really interesting. Because when you claim to so what was the canto that he mentioned? 11 to I say the ideal of renunciation. So this is mainly from the Uddhav Gita, and
उच्चात्य उच्चय हसत्यथो रोदति रौति गायत्य उन्मादवन नित्यादि लोक भायः. By chanting the holy name of
Let's
Supreme
let him
Lord, one comes
finish.
to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in this vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to particular name and form of Supreme Personality of Godhead. अच्छा, अब जो इस प्रकार से भगवान से आसक्त हो गया है, जो हमेशा भगवान के नाम का कीर्तन कर रहा है, ऐसे व्यक्ति क्या करेगा? As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings, and he dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. पर लेकिन कौन ऐसा व्यक्ति है जो कि किसी नियम अब कायदे के परे हो चुका है? ऐसा व्यक्ति जो कि भगवान के नाम रूप गुण लीला से इतना ज्यादा अटैच हो चुका है कि पूरी तरह से उसी में सराब हो रहा है और उनकी कीर्ति गान करता रहता है, नाम लेता रहता है. तो इसीलिए हम जो बोले हमें नियम का पालन नहीं करना, वेल अष्टांग योग के अनुसार भी अगर आप देखेंगे ना, यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारण ध्यान समाधि. सो यम नियम इज पार्ट ऑफ स्पिरिचुअल कल्चर, स्पिरिचुअल डेवलपमेंट.
Yep.
भगवान श्री कृष्ण भगवद गीता के 6वें अध्याय के अंदर ये तो बता रहे हैं कि जो बहुत अधिक सोता है, जो बहुत कम सोता है, जो बहुत अधिक खाता है, बहुत कम खाता है, ऐसा व्यक्ति योगी नहीं बन सकता. अगर ध्यान लगाना है तो चैप्टर 6 के अंदर.
So I have a lot of issues with what his translation is because I don't find it anywhere. But let me just see. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. It's really convoluted. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord. So my version of the Bhagavatam doesn't have the verses, but nowhere can I read where this says it. So I'm going to make a note of this and we will discuss it, because this part talks about mainly the ideal of renunciation in this part. But yeah, it's but yeah, but so one thing I want to say here, he says sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. Well, wasn't Acharya Prashant doing that? So what is the problem? If he is in the love of Shri Krishna and he's dancing to any music, it doesn't matter. He's in the remembrance of Shri Krishna, right? You don't know his state. You didn't ask him. So yeah, let's see how he's going to spin this.
To the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in this vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to particular name and form of Supreme Personality of Godhead. अच्छा, अब जो इस प्रकार से भगवान से आसक्त हो गया है, जो हमेशा भगवान के नाम का कीर्तन कर रहा है, ऐसे व्यक्ति क्या करेगा? As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings, and he dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. पर लेकिन कौन ऐसा व्यक्ति है जो कि किसी नियम अब कायदे के परे हो चुका है? ऐसा व्यक्ति जो कि भगवान के नाम रूप गुण लीला से इतना ज्यादा अटैच हो चुका है कि पूरी तरह से उसी में सराब हो रहा है और उनकी कीर्ति गान करता रहता है, नाम लेता रहता है. तो इसीलिए हम जो बोले हमें नियम का पालन नहीं करना, वेल अष्टांग योग के अनुसार भी अगर आप देखेंगे ना, यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारण ध्यान समाधि. सो यम नियम इज पार्ट ऑफ स्पिरिचुअल कल्चर, स्पिरिचुअल डेवलपमेंट. भगवान श्री कृष्ण भगवद गीता के 6वें अध्याय के अंदर ये तो बता रहे हैं कि जो बहुत अधिक सोता है, जो बहुत कम सोता है, जो बहुत अधिक खाता है, बहुत कम खाता है, ऐसा व्यक्ति योगी नहीं बन सकता. अगर ध्यान लगाना है तो चैप्टर 6 के अंदर ही भगवान फिर से बता रहे हैं कि किस प्रकार से आपको सीधा बैठना चाहिए.
Okay. Before I carry on, so did you see how he doesn't address the point? He doesn't explain the actual verse. He doesn't go into what it really means. He then swiftly goes on to the yamas and niyamas of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, which I again mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And yes, one should have ethics and again, a strong sense of ethics. One should, he talks about all these things, but again, he's not proven that Acharya Ji doesn't do those things. So again, where's his point?
अपनी भृकुटी पे ध्यान लगाना होता है, ब्रह्मचर्य का पालन करना होता है। ऐसा व्यक्ति किसी प्रकार से सांसारिक आसक्तियों और द्वेष से परे होता है। रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस, ये नियम कायदे जरूरी हैं, हाँ जी जरूरी है, दो कौड़ी के नहीं है ये कायदे इत्यादि, इनका पालन करना पड़ता है। जैसे कि ना रोड पे अगर रेड लाइट हटा दें कि हटा दो, ये क्या फालतू के नियम कायदे हैं, ये हम वैसे ही पहुंच जाएंगे। रेड लाइट हटा देंगे ना, कोई कहीं नहीं पहुंच पाएगा। अब पतंग बोले अरे क्या धागे से मुझे बांध रखा, मुझे वैसे उड़ने दो, ये नियम कायदे क्या है जी, धागा कट जाएगा ना, नीचे उड़ेगी वो। तो इसलिए शास्त्रों में नियम कायदे आते हैं और ये दो कौड़ी के नहीं होते। इनका पालन करके हम बल्कि अध्यात्म में आगे बढ़ते हैं। अगर हम कुछ भी खाते हैं पीते हैं, कभी भी उठ रहे हैं, कभी भी सो रहे हैं और किसी भी गाने पे डांस कर रहे हैं, निश्चित रूप से ये स्पिरिचुअलिस्ट के कायदे कानून में तो नहीं आता। तो इसीलिए नियम कायदे इत्यादि का पालन करना जरूरी है। यस, सो दैट वी बिकम प्योर बाय फॉलोइंग दी शास्त्र। आप बोलते ना भाई शास्त्र की बात करो तो दफा हो यहां से, तो ठीक है जी, शास्त्र की बात ही बता रहे हैं। शास्त्र हमको नियम कायदे इत्यादि देते हैं और ये दो कौड़ी के हरगिज नहीं है। ये निश्चित रूप से महत्वपूर्ण होते हैं, हमारे स्पिरिचुअल डेवलपमेंट के लिए होते हैं।
Another part of the yamas and niyamas are not to gossip about other people. You literally just gossiped. So why don't you follow it first before you speak about other people? So again, this is what I mean. So it's coming from a place of spiritual ego. Did anyone grasp anything that I may have missed? But I was trying to find a decent translation for what he was saying, because I disagree with the translation, because it's in a lot of ISKCON speak. But yeah, I mean, at this point, he's not proven that Acharya Prashant is not following any of the niyamas or the yamas. Now, the one thing I'm going to mention is he's going through it based on those pictures that he saw before, which he's not been able to prove. So whoever keeps going back to that, it just shows that his base is faulty. So yeah, here we go.
कोई जादुई शक्तियां नहीं होती भाई, छोटी सी बात क्यों नहीं पल्ले पड़ रही। छठी का लड़का घूम रहा है दिमाग में, ए स्क्वायर प्लस बी स्क्वायर इक्वल टू सी स्क्वायर, ए स्क्वायर प्लस बी स्क्वायर इक्वल टू सी स्क्वायर। इससे क्या होगा, क्या होगा इससे एक भी सवाल हल हो जाएगा ना। उसे ए पता ना, बी पता ना, सी पता, स्क्वायर भी नहीं पता, जोड़ना भी नहीं आता। दोहराने से क्या होगा, तुम उसका अर्थ ही नहीं समझते तो। और अर्थ भी फिर कह रहा हूं, मात्र शाब्दिक ही नहीं सांकेतिक भी समझना पड़ता है। शाब्दिक अर्थ तो अनुवाद मात्र होता है, अनुवाद ले लिया, वो अनुवाद से कुछ नहीं बात बनेगी। हर मंत्र में कहीं दूर का इशारा होता है।
ओके, नाउ अगला आर्गुमेंट जो कि आचार्य प्रशांत जी से आया वो ये है कि भाई ये नाम, ये मंत्रों में कोई शक्ति वगैरह नहीं होती है। तो क्या लग रहा है मंत्र में शक्ति होती है क्या? मंत्र में कोई शक्ति नहीं होती है। तो ये भी आपने देखा, मंत्र में कोई शक्ति नहीं होती। तो देखिए शास्त्र इस बारे में क्या बोलता है, क्या मंत्रों में शक्ति होती है या नहीं होती है? वैसे तो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु जो कि राधा कृष्ण का युगल रूप हैं, उन्होंने खुद ने बताया कि वास्तव में भगवान के नामों में उनकी सारी शक्तियां हैं। और चैतन्य महाप्रभु इज नॉट लाइक फैब्रिकेटेड गॉड, नो, ही इज गॉड एज पर चैतन्य उपनिषद। एक उपनिषद है, आप चाहे तो डाउन।
Oh my god, this is he has gone so far-fetched, it's unbelievable. One, there's no Chaitanya Upanishad. I didn't know this even existed, so this is the first time I've ever come across it. But yeah, it's not one of the principal Upanishads, so that's first of all. And nowhere has Sri Krishna ever said that if you chant these mantras, all my powers are in there. There is nowhere he has said this. That's fabrication on their side. So yeah, this is literally him just spouting off ISKCON nonsense. Dylanji, he's trying to snatch the followers of Acharya Prashant, doing a bad job as it is, because the one positive thing that Acharya Prashant does is he makes people think. So whoever watches this and thinks, they will not, they will find flaws straight away, just like we did. It didn't take us long. And yeah, Dr. Naik does the same thing. And I'm sure they learn from him on how to do that in many regards. But yeah, Chaitanya Upanishad, I've never come across it before. And even if it was, and even if it is, it's from the 1600s. Or whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was alive, but it's not something I would consider to be, I've never come across it before.
चैतन्य उपनिषद एक उपनिषद है, आप चाहें तो डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. यू कैन गो टू Amazon, वहां पर किंडल वर्जन इसका अवेलेबल है और इसका लिंक भी हमने दिया हुआ है.
He wants you to buy it to give them more money. This is not, but I want you to all know Chaitanya Upanishad is not a text that was recognized by Adi Shankaraji. So I just want us to be clear on this point. Probably not even Ramanuja Acharya would even approve of this. So just letting you know in advance.
डिस्क्रिप्शन में क्लिक करें, डाउनलोड करें, पढ़ें चैतन्य उपनिषद. और यही श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु अपने शिक्षा अष्टकम, व्हिच इज अ मास्टरपीस, उसके सेकंड श्लोक में क्या बता रहे हैं आप स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं. नाम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्व शक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमीदृशम् इजहानि नानुरागः. सो नाम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्व शक्ति, यानी कि भगवान ने अपने विविध प्रकार के नामों में अपनी समस्त शक्तियां अर्पित कर दी हैं.
This is perfect. Again, I'm not giving a talk on this matter because this is just all their own philosophy speaking. Nowhere in the Gita has Sri Krishna said this. I just want us to be aware of that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may have said it, but that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's opinion and his teaching. There's nothing wrong with that teaching, but it's not the same as an Upanishad of the Vedas. You will not find the Chaitanya Upanishad in the Vedas. Let me make that very clear too.
अरे हमें तो लगा था मंत्रों में कोई शक्ति होती नहीं, लेकिन भगवान ने अपनी सारी शक्तियां उसके अंदर संचारित की हैं. सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं कि शक्ति डाली है, बल्कि अपने से भी ज्यादा शक्ति, अपने से भी ज्यादा करुणा डाली है इन मंत्रों में, इन नामों के अंदर. तो इसी
See, what he's saying is like there are all the powers in the mantras because their business is on mantras. If they say it's in meditation, they'll be losing business. So again, I put it down to it's got less to do with philosophy, more to do with their business model.
प्रकार से एक और श्लोक आता है शास्त्रों से. पद्म पुराण के अंदर बताया गया है, स्वयं नारायणो देवो स्वनाम्नि जगताम गुरु आत्मनो अभ्याधिकाम शक्तिम स्थाप्यामास सुव्रताः. उत्तम व्रत का पालन करने वाले महर्षियों जगत गुरु भगवान नारायण ने स्वयं ही अपने नाम में अपने से भी अधिक शक्ति अर्पित कर दी है.
Okay, so how this is even possible? How can someone who's already of the highest put something higher than that into the mantra? That makes no sense. Logically, it makes no sense. Take care, guys. Wishing you all the best and happy Hanuman Jayanti to you too. So again, how can this even be possible? It makes no sense at all.
साथ ही भगवान श्री कृष्ण खुद ही बता रहे हैं, यज्ञानाम जप यज्ञोस्मि, चैप्टर 10 वर्स नंबर 25 भगवद गीता.
Okay. Thank God he's quoting something we can actually look at. So he's 10:25. Okay, I have it. Let's see. I want to see his interpretation. Then I'm going to speak on it.
जितने भी यज्ञ हैं इनमें जप यज्ञ is topmost.
Okay, he does not say this. He doesn't say this. Okay, what he says is, of great riches I am Brigu, of all words I am the single syllabled sound vibration of Om, of all yagnas I am Japa, the chanting of mantras on a mala, of immovable things I am the Himalayan mountains. So prior to Japa is Om. So Om can be the most sacred of mantras, according to his logic now. So it shouldn't be the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, not that one. Sorry, out of all respect, it's not the it's not that, but Om, because Sri Krishna has said that, but he may not agree because it doesn't suit his business model.
अब जो जप यज्ञ होता है ये मानसिक भी होता है, वाचिक भी होता है, उच्चय भी होता है। तो हमने देखा आचार्य प्रशांत जी जो हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं वो मानसिक जप को हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं कि ओके हम उसमें आ गए रेपिटेशन, बट ऐसा नहीं कि हम बोलना जो है वो उसकी कोई वैल्यू नहीं है, भाई नामों में क्या शक्ति है, नहीं नामों शक्ति है। तो इसलिए वाचिक भी होता है और उच्चय भी होता है। अब देखिए भगवान
anyone that is also intellectually trained a little bit, you know that chanting mantras is not enough. It is there to prepare you, but it's not the highest enlightenment. The enlightenment aspect comes from the gyan, through which we may accumulate through bhakti. So you can accumulate it through Nam Japa for sure, but and that's what Acharya Prashant ji is saying, is that you could say any word as long as your intention is clear. If your intention is to get to the highest, then you can use any word. But if you're going to claim that one word is better than the others, he says that's when the problem arises, because then you're saying every syllable that has come from the one is bad, or is not as pure. So what I would say is actually the greatest mantra would be Om, as it is as it's the first sound of the universe. But every sound has originated from that one single sound. So if you understand the source, that's all that matters. And that's what I think that's what Acharya Prashant ji was trying to say.
भगवान श्री राम का नाम ही था जिसने कि पत्थरों को तैरा दिया। रामायण के अंदर तो बहुत ही फेमस व्याख्यान है। इसके अलावा शिव जी पार्वती बता रहे हैं। पार्वती मैंने पूछा कि भाई कलयुग तो बड़ा घनघोर युग है, बड़े कष्ट हैं इसके अंदर, भला हम कैसे निकलेंगे इससे? तो शिव जी ने क्या बताया, देखिए ये श्लोक आप स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं। ईश्वर उवाच हरे नाम हरे नामैव केवलम हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण कृष्णेति मंगलम। तो यहाँ पर शिव जी क्लियरली बता रहे हैं पार्वती मैया को कि
I didn't get the text, and I can't read Hindi, so that puts me in a bit of a detriment. But he didn't name the text.
अगर आप चाहते हो आपके जीवन में मंगल हो तो उसके लिए क्या करना चाहिए आपको? ये हरे कृष्ण हरे राम ये महामंत्र ये लेना चाहिए। तो मंत्रों में शक्ति नहीं होती है, शिव जी के अनुसार तो शक्ति होती है। इसके अलावा ये और कुछ कोटेशंस हैं, वी विल जस्ट क्विकली गो थ्रू देम। अथर्ववेद Canto 19, chapter number 9, verse number 1. Oh mantra,
Doesn't he sound like Dr. Zakir Naik when he does that?
You are a giver of life, remover of all sins, and bestower of all virtues. You are the light that illuminates the path of truth.
Okay, so we talk about insight. He's talked about this, about going beyond. When I see that verse, I'm not thinking of, oh, mantras are great. I'm thinking of, oh, the insight that I get from saying the mantra is great. That is the giver of life. So that formless awareness is the giver of life. But yeah, but that's how I would interpret that.
Yajurved, chapter 36, verse number 3. Mantras are the seeds of the divine, essence of the gods. They have the power to bring forth all that is good.
So they have the power to bring forth all that is good. But what is that power? That's Brahman. So
Rigved, canto number 1, chapter 164, verse number 39. Let noble thoughts come to us from every side, like rays of light from the sun. Let our mantras be potent and full of power.
This is very telling. It says here, let our mantras be potent and full of power. That implies that they're not always full of power. This is where, he's not, he's quoting things, but he's not thought them out.
Rigved again, canto 10, chapter 125, verse number 5. Let the mantras be our protectors. Let them be our friends. Let them bring us welfare and prosperity. Let the mantras lead us to the path of truth and liberation.
Again, nothing wrong with that. I don't think Acharya Ji is going to be against that either. But the way people chant nowadays, where there's no awareness of the higher, where the intellect is not trained enough, there is problems. Now so the problem what I have with the quotes that he just mentioned, because he's just kind of giving out quotes that prove his point. You've not gone into what was said before or after, what the context of the verse of the section would be. But even if that's fine, you've not really explored how one should get to that stage. So if I am to chant mantras, first of all, my intellect has to be clear on what is real and unreal. This is according to, again, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, Sri Krishna talks about this. And I go back to this all the time. The fact that he doesn't even talk about chapter 2 so far tells me they do not find the intellect to be of use. Because if he did, then you understand the true power of the mantras. Acharya Prashant, again, he took a section from it, but in that section, I'm sure he's mentioned already, because he normally does, how people's intellect is not trained enough, or they've not utilized it yet, or they don't have that knowledge of what the Supreme is. So if you're chanting, it's like, for example, if I say mother, mother everywhere all the time, does that make my mom come closer to me? No. For that, first I need to know who my mom is. Yeah. If I say water all the time, unless I drink that glass of water, is my thirst quenched. But me saying water is not enough. Even if I know what is in water, the chemical molecules, it doesn't matter. What matters is if I drink that water. The same thing. The intellect is there to tell us to drink the water. Water is now in front of it. You recognize it. Now drink it. There's no point saying it. You said it once. That's more than enough. If I just say, oh, I need to drink water because I'm thirsty, and then I just keep saying water, 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 and I stay sitting here, it's not going to help. So again, to understand the power of mantras, you have to explain what they will bring about. What will they truly bring us to? And that is, mantras should take us to a place of silence where only this Brahman remains. That's where it should lead us to. So yes, it should lead us to Vairagya slowly. It definitely does, but it's not the panacea that he's trying to claim it to be.
So hence proved, भगवान के नामों में, मंत्रों में शक्ति होती है कि नहीं, as per शास्त्र.
Again, it proves they have power, but doesn't mean. But again, you need an intellect prior to that.
शक्ति होती है. Yes. इसलिए हम आचार्य प्रशांत जी से रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे, मंत्रों के ऊपर फिर से एक बार थोड़ा ध्यान देंगे, तो उनको पता लगेगा कि मंत्र ये साधारण मंत्र नहीं होते, ये भगवान की शक्ति से संचारित होते हैं. यस. सो अगला जो आर्गुमेंट है जो कि आचार्य प्रशांत जी से आया, वो ये है कि अगर कोई बच्चा है ए स्क्वायर बी स्क्वायर सी स्क्वायर बोल रहा है, क्या होगा उसके जपा करने से? कोई फायदा नहीं होगा उसके जपा करने से.
छठी का लड़का घूम रहा है दिमाग में, ए स्क्वायर प्लस बी स्क्वायर इक्वल टू सी स्क्वायर, ए स्क्वायर प्लस बी स्क्वायर इक्वल टू सी स्क्वायर. इससे क्या होगा? क्या होगा इससे एक भी सवाल हल हो जाएगा ना. उसे ए पता ना बी पता ना सी पता, स्क्वायर भी नहीं पता, जोड़ना भी नहीं आता. दोहराने से क्या होगा तुम उसका अर्थ ही नहीं समझते तो. और अर्थ भी फिर कह रहा हूं, मात्र शाब्दिक ही नहीं, सांकेतिक भी समझना पड़ता है.
ओके. तो अगर कोई व्यक्ति इस प्रकार से नाम लेता, मान लो इतना सीरियसली उसने नाम नहीं भी लिया, तो उसको लाभ मिलता है या नहीं मिलता? नो डाउट, अगर कोई सीरियसली लेता है उसको ज्यादा लाभ मिलता है. पर मान लो कि इसके मन में कुछ और चल रहा है, उसने नाम लिया, तो क्या उसको कोई लाभ नहीं मिलेगा? लेट्स सी व्हाट शास्त्रा स्पीक अबाउट इट. तो ये आता है श्लोक ब्रह्म वैवर्त पुराण के अंदर.
Again, he always has to go to the Puran mainly, but you heard it from Acharya Prashant there. He says very clearly that you need to understand the meaning. Just by bringing a few words together doesn't mean that you know what something means or what something is. So again, he has proven his point stands. I actually think Acharyaji's point is strong with this. Amogh Lila Prabhu or Das, he doesn't really understand the point. But one thing which I kind of like what he's doing is he's then going into whether there is okay, there is a shlok in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll have to find it, but I think there is a shlok that says that even mantra jap is one of the lower knowledges and the highest is this gyan, this wisdom. So there is benefits, but it's yeah. Let's see what he's got to
श्री
say.
कृष्ण खंड है, चैप्टर है 111 वर्स नंबर 41। वेद पाठ सहस्राणि प्रादक्षिण्यं भुवा शतम कृष्ण नाम जपस्यास्य कलाम नारति षोडशी। यज्ञ व्रत सहस्त्रों वेद पाठ और सैकड़ों बार पृथ्वी की परिक्रमा, ये सभी इस कृष्ण नाम जप की 16वीं कला की समानता भी नहीं कर सकते हैं। वाओ! तो यानी कि अगर कोई व्यक्ति वैसे नाम लेता है तो सोचिए नाम से कितना लाभ मिलता है। अच्छा, अगर कोई असावधानी पूर्वक ले तो इस संदर्भ में श्रीमद्
Okay, so what he's claiming is there's so much power in just saying the word Krishna. If that was the case, there are so many Hare Krishnas doing the job today. Shouldn't this world be pure right now? Shouldn't the world be transformed by now? I mean, their argument could be, well, the world is in a really dire state, but things haven't improved. Things have got worse. So,
श्रीमद् भागवतम से एक बड़ा सुंदर श्लोक है। श्रीमद् भागवतम में आता है ये श्लोक छठे स्कंद के अंदर, दूसरा अध्याय है, 14वां श्लोक है इस प्रकार से। सांकेत्यम परिहास्यम वा शोभम हेलमेव वा वैकुंठ नाम ग्रहणम शेषाघरम विदु। One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of scriptures. उसी प्रकार से श्रीमद् भागवतम के फर्स्ट कैंटो के
I don't know if that's really true. I've heard many gurus say if you don't do the mantras correctly, you will be in trouble.
फर्स्ट चैप्टर के 4th वर्स के अंदर आपन्ना संस्कृति घोराम यन्ना विवशनो गृणन तथा सद्यो विमुच्येत यद्विवेति स्वयं भयम। Living beings are entangled in complicated meshes of birth and death, can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna. Unconsciously. आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर शब्द है विवशो घृणन, which is feared by fear personified. तो इस प्रकार से साबित होता है कि अगर कोई व्यक्ति ध्यान से जप नहीं भी कर पाता तो ऐसे नहीं उसको लाभ मिलेगा ही नहीं, उसको लाभ तो मिलता ही है। नो डाउट, अगर वो कॉन्शियसली करेगा, मीनिंग जानते हुए करेगा तो उसको और लाभ मिलेगा। लेकिन कृष्ण का नाम जो है, भगवान का नाम इतना अद्भुत है कि जाने अनजाने में भी अगर कोई नाम लेता है तो नाम लेने का लाभ तो उसको मिलता है।
कृष्ण के मुंह में कुछ नहीं था।
But what labh, what value is not spoken about because there's no logic behind what they're saying. I think chanting is stating phase to focus your mind on meditation for long. Yep, I agree. It's about meditating.
यशोदा की आंखों में सब कुछ था, कृष्ण के मुंह में तो वही सब कुछ था जो किसी भी बच्चे के मुंह में हो सकता है। ये माँ विलक्षण है, ये व्यक्ति विलक्षण है। यशोदा नाम का ये व्यक्ति विलक्षण है जिसको एक छोटे से बच्चे में समस्त अस्तित्व दिखाई दे गया।
तो अभी आपने ये जो क्लिप देखी इसमें कि उदाहरण के देखो, एक साधारण सा लड़का है, वो कृष्ण एक साधारण सा लड़का है, तो उसके मुंह में भला किस प्रकार से विश्व रूप दिख जाएगा, किस प्रकार से ब्रह्मांड दिख जाएगा। तो दिखने को तो कहीं भी दिख जाएगा, वो ऐसा थोड़ी किसी बच्चे के मुख में दिखेगा। ओके, इंटरेस्टिंग आर्गुमेंट। लेकिन अगर हम देखें तो श्रीमद् भागवतम के 10th कैंटो के अंदर देयर इज एंटायर चैप्टर ऑन दिस। यस, पूरा एक चैप्टर है 10th कैंटो के अंदर जिसमें पूरा डिटेल डिस्क्रिप्शन है हाउ मदर यशोदा सॉ एंटायर क्रिएशन in Krishna's mouth. और एक भी आचार्य ने ये नहीं बोला कि नहीं मुंह में नहीं देखा, वो वैसी भ्रम हो गया था उनको। नहीं, वो चाहे मध्वाचार्य जी हो, रामाचार्य जी हो, विष्णु स्वामी जी हो, बड़े बड़े जो टीका करने वाले हैं शास्त्रों के ऊपर, who are self-realized souls, they are actually acharyas. ऐसे actual acharyas ने comment किया that actually Mother Yashoda saw entire creation in Krishna's.
Were they there to state that she did? I'm just speaking very logically. Your point has no. They weren't there to say yes, Ma Yashoda actually saw it. You're going based on a text, which is not considered on the same level of the Upanishads, even though you may claim it to be the Vedas or the Vedas, but yeah, it's still not a substantial point. Notice he didn't mention Adi Shankaraji. Could be that he missed out, but even if that's the case, does it really matter? What does Ma Yashoda seeing the Brahman, this universe in Sri Krishna's mouth, got anything to do with you and your realization? What has it got to do with your enlightenment? Nothing.
Mouth. So कृष्ण क्या कोई साधारण बच्चा है? Well, भगवद गीता अगर कोई ध्यान से पढ़ेगा तो ये क्लियरली स्थापित होता है that yes, Krishna is the supreme Lord. या चैप्टर 7 वर्स नंबर 7 के अंदर क्या आता है? मत्ता परतरम न अन्यत्.
So 7:7.
किंचित अस्ति धनंजय, यानी कि मेरे से ज्यादा श्रेष्ठ और कोई तत्व नहीं है एज पर भगवद गीता.
Okay. 7:7. I'm glad that he's speaking from here. So again, he says, "Oh Arjun, there is nothing greater than me or beyond me. All that exists is held in place by me, just like the jewels strung on a necklace are held together by invisible threads." Those that have listened to my podcast also know that I have talked about this myself. When he says me or mine, he's talking about that true reality, that witness consciousness, Nirgun Brahman. He's not talking about him, the name and form. This is what ISKCON people do not understand. Because the moment that, and I come back to this all the time, the moment that Arjun asked Sri Krishna to be the Guru, he had to get out a name and form. He had to be the eternal truth himself. The only eternal truth is that which is changeless. And that which is changeless is witness consciousness, the Purusha. So they obviously do not understand the context of the whole verse. So theirs is a misinterpretation.
जिसपे की कमेंट्री लिखी हुई है ना आचार्य प्रशांत जी ने, उसके अनुसार कृष्णा इज नॉट एन ऑर्डिनरी चाइल्ड, क्योंकि मुख में जो है वाला ब्रह्मांड कैसे दिख जाएगा, सृष्टि कैसे दिख जाएगी. बोले नत्ता परतरम नान्यत् किंचित् अस्ति धनंजय मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतम सूत्रे मणिगणा एव. तो इस प्रकार से चैप्टर 7 वर्स नंबर 7 के अंदर एक क्लियरली भगवान बता रहे हैं दैट सबसे बड़ा तत्व है कौन? कृष्ण ही परम तत्व है. अच्छा, कृष्ण परम तत्व है, भला कौन कौन बताने वाला है? तो
Again, but he's still stuck in name and form. He's not been able to transcend it. Whoever can't transcend name and form, when this has already been established in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, and they still haven't carried on to the 7th, how can this person even know exactly what Krishna is? They don't want to understand. That's the fear advaitins which don't let them sleep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the fear advaitins is exactly what they have. I mean, this is ridiculous.
सबसे पहले हम लेके चलते हैं शिव जी को. तो शिव जी बता रहे हैं.
So he has to now go to Shivji to talk about Krishna. In my opinion, I've only seen Shivji talk about Sri Ram. I've never heard him speak about Krishna. But
so Krishna Krishna Jagannatha jane twam.
Again, I don't know what he doesn't talk about where he's getting this from.
Purushottamam paresham panatmanam anadim nidhanam param tumeva jagatam srishta dhata harta jagat guru tumeva chid chidvastu रूपम ब्रह्मा सुरेश्वरा. तो यहाँ शंकर जी बता रहे हैं, शिव जी बता रहे हैं साफ साफ कि हे जगत के स्वामी कौन? ये भगवान श्री कृष्ण को बता रहे हैं. हे भगवान श्री कृष्ण, मैं आपको.
Okay, so he didn't actually say that, But he's just added that he's saying Shri Krishna.
पुरुषोत्तम जानता हूं, आप ही परेश परमात्मा तथा अनादि धन हैं, आप ही जगत की सृष्टि करने वाले, धारण करने वाले, हरण करने वाले जगत गुरु हैं। आप चेतना और चेतन अचेतन वस्तु, शारीरिक ब्रह्म तथा देवताओं के स्वामी हैं। आप ही आदि अनादि शेष और ईश्वर हैं। आप ही महत्व पर ब्रह्म और प्रत्यागात्मा अर्थात सर्वव्यापक परमात्मा हैं। तो शिव जी तो डंके की चोट बता रहे हैं दैट कृष्णा इज नॉट एन ऑर्डिनरी चाइल्ड। कृष्ण जो है वास्तव में परम भगवान है, परम सत्य।
Again, he didn't explain which text it was. He just said Shivji said. So unless someone later on can tell me what text this is, but he doesn't mention it, and that to me again shows that he's deliberately misinterpreting what is being said.
हैं, परम तत्व हैं। आदि शंकराचार्य जी ने तो बल्कि जगन्नाथ अष्टकम लिखा है जिसमें कि भगवान जगन्नाथ का ग्लोरिफिकेशन दैट यस यू आर द सुप्रीम लॉर्ड। तो हम पूरा तो जगन्नाथ अष्टकम यहाँ नहीं लिखाएंगे नहीं तो क्योंकि ये वीडियो बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा।
He's also the Nirvana Shatakam. Did you ever read that? Probably not.
पर आप पढ़ सकते हैं जगन्नाथ अष्टकम, द ग्लोरीज ऑफ लॉर्ड श्री कृष्णा बाय आदि शंकराचार्य जी। अच्छा, तो शिव जी ने भी हो गया। अगर ब्रह्मा जी भला क्या बोल रहे हैं भगवान श्री कृष्ण के बारे में, क्या वो परम भगवान है या नहीं है? आइए देखते हैं फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 10 चैप्टर नंबर 14 वर्स नंबर 14 के अंदर। नारायणस्त्वं न हि सर्वदेहिनां आत्मस्य धीशा अखिल लोक साक्षी नारायणो अंगम नरभूजलायनात् तच्चापि सत्यम न तवैव माया। सो यहाँ ब्रह्मा जी क्या बता रहे हैं? आर यू नॉट द ओरिजिनल नारायण, ओ सुप्रीम कंट्रोलर? Since you are the soul of every embodied being and eternal witness of created realms, indeed Lord Narayan is your expansion. Narayano Angam. Narayan is your expansion and he is called Narayan because he is generating source of the primeval water of the universe. He is real, not a product of your illusory Maya.
So again, if he actually really followed this and actually read it properly and interpreted it properly, basically he's saying that Narayan is basically the eternal witness, therefore is changeless, therefore this whole dunya is, this whole jagat is nothing but this Brahman itself. This is also said in Yog Vashisht, but it doesn't mean, but you see here it says Narayan, it doesn't say Krishna, but he's going to interpret it as Krishna because one of the avatars of Vishnu is Krishna. Nothing wrong with that, but then you got to say Ramji is too. It can't just be one person. But yeah, go on. You can interpret the way you want to.
Created realms. Indeed, Lord Narayan is your expansion. Narayan, not a product of your illusory Maya. तो यहां पर बल्कि नारायण, प्रभु नारायण, इवन वो भी भगवान श्री कृष्ण का अंग ही कौन बोल रहे हैं? संसारों को व्यक्ति बोल रहे हैं, वेल ब्रह्मा जी बोल रहे हैं, who is actually an आचार्य। तो इसलिए ब्रह्मा जी,
see how he keeps saying actually an acharya. This is what I mean. He's such a he's not following the niyamas himself, and not only that, but like Brahmaji again, like in the reality of everything, even Brahmaji is an illusion, is Maya, mithya. But my friend will not be able to take that in. I think it's beyond his intellect.
जी की वाणी को लेके चले या फिर शिव जी की वाणी को लेके चले, या फिर हम देखते हैं कि गोवर्धन लीला जब हुई तो उसके बाद इंद्र ने आकर के भगवान श्री कृष्ण की पूजा की। तो देवताओं के राजा इंद्र भी उनकी पूजा करते हैं, ब्रह्मा जी उनका गुणगान करते हैं, शिव जी उनका गुणगान करते हैं। तो कृष्ण कोई साधारण बच्चा है कि मुंह खोलेगा तो भला उनके मुंह में ब्रह्मांड कैसे दिख जाएगा यशोदा मैया को? वो चलते फिरते किसी को दिख सकता हो? तो शास्त्रों में एक सिंगल एग्जांपल मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा आचार्य प्रशांत जी से, एक सिंगल एग्जांपल। को बंदा गली में चल रहा था, चलते चलते उसको सारी सृष्टि में उसको वो दर्शन हो गए जो कि यशोदा मैया को कृष्ण के मुख में हुए ना, ऐसे दर्शन चलते फिरते उसको हो गए। मार्केट में था, वो शॉपिंग कर रहा था, या पहाड़ों में बैठा था, या किसी नदी किनारे बैठा था, और फिर हुआ क्या, उसको दर्शन हो गए। रियली तो एक सिंगल एग्जांपल दे, हमको ही पढ़ के अच्छा लगेगा कि वाह प्रभु तो देखो ऐसे भी किसी को दे देते हैं अपना दिव्य दर्शन, क्या बात है।
Like just his tone, but again his point is mute. It doesn't hold any real structure. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really think that if my Yashoda did see the whole universe, so what? What has that got to do with me and my devotion Nothing. Nothing. It can inspire, but that's all. It's not reality, though.
जो विश्व का दर्शन है.
And in that verse, he mentioned eternal witness. So he's not part of the world. And you're associating that Sri Krishna, who shows this universe, oh, he's most supreme. He's showing you one thing. If you want to really understand what that verse really means, or that story, that Mayashoda sees that Sri Krishna's mouth has the whole universe in it. The whole universe is an image upon the screen of consciousness. That's all. That's simply as it is. There's nothing more to it. Shri Krishna is saying, I am that eternal witness. This world that you're in, that you're seeing in my mouth, is just an image upon that screen. It's going to go. It's mithya, as Vikramji says. That's the true understanding of that. But again, if you don't know the basics, how can you explain it? For you, it's a real event. As in, you think it's an historical event. For me, this states something about reality. Two different way of thinking. I'm not saying mine is better, but if I use my intellect, that's what it would tell me. And again, I'm using the intellect that Sri Krishna is given, according to chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita.
So हमें बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. So kindly please share such an example from the Shastra. We'll be glad to listen to it and read it. तो आपने ये जो क्लिप देखी, इसमें आचार्य प्रशांत बोल रहे हैं, कृष्ण क्या मानते हो तुम? वो निराकार है.
रूपों से तो मन भरा ही रहता है, तो श्री कृष्ण का स्मरण किसी रूप में नहीं करना है. रूप तो है ही वो बला जो मन पर छाई रहती है. आपके मन में रूप, आकार, रंग, स्मृति, आकृति, इनके अलावा कुछ और है? बताइएगा. मन में यही सब तो चलता रहता है ना. तो आप उसमें और जोड़ लेना चाहते हैं कि इतने रूप पहले ही थे, एक रूप और जोड़ लूं. कौन सा रूप? वो रूप जिसे मैंने श्री कृष्ण के रूप का नाम दिया है. याद रखिए, श्री कृष्ण का क्या रूप है ये तो आप जानते नहीं. उनका रूप है भी कि नहीं ये भी आप जानते नहीं. अगर वो अव्यक्त अक्षर ओंकार है तो उनका तो कोई रूप हो भी नहीं सकता. और ये हम भूल जाते हैं कि रूप देना हमारा व्यसन है, हमारी आदत है, हमारी बीमारी है. अरूप औषधि है, दवा है, काट है सब रूपों की. रूप कटेंगे तभी तो मन हल्का होगा, मन हल्का होगा तभी तो मन आत्मस्थ होगा.
तुमको लगता है वो रूप है क्या? क्या रूप के बारे में जानते हो तुम क्या?
Acharya ji is absolutely right. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Acharya ji is completely right. But let's see what Amogh Lila Das will say.
अच्छा बताया आपने. तो आइए देखते हैं शास्त्र इस बारे में क्या बोलते हैं कि कृष्ण भला साकार है या निराकार है. सो इससे चैप्टर 5 वर्स नंबर 1 के अंदर पहला श्लोक ब्रह्म संहिता का, जहां ब्रह्मा जी खुद बता रहे हैं. क्या बता रहे हैं? ईश्वर परमा कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद विग्रह अनादिर आदिर गोविंद सर्व कारण कारणम. सो सच्चिदानंद विग्रह. तो आचार्य प्रशांत जी बोल रहे हैं तुम तो रूपों में फंस गए. हाँ जी, संसार के रूपों में नहीं फंसना चाहिए, नो डाउट. लेकिन भगवान का जो रूप है, ऐसा नहीं कि ये या तो संसारी रूप होता है या निराकार होता है. नहीं जी, इसके अलावा एक तीसरी ऑप्शन भी होती है, वो है स्पिरिचुअल फॉर्म, सच्चिदानंद.
Okay, he talks about spiritual rupa Satchitananda. I'm going to go back and say, how can you prove that there is a spiritual form? How can you prove it?
विग्रह. यस. और भगवान श्री कृष्ण का जो रूप है वो सच्चिदानंद है. और
Okay, so if someone's in bliss, that's the roop of Brahman. If existence is Brahman, and Chit consciousness is Brahman. So Krishna is just saying that there's nothing but Brahman. But that's what he's saying. But what these guys are interpreting, I don't know.
कौन बता रहे हैं? गणेश जी बता रहे हैं. सो ब्रह्म वैवर्त पुराण के पूर्व भाग में गणपति खंड आता है, उसमें बता रहे हैं, वहां पर गणेश जी क्या बता रहे हैं? यन्मन्ति च शरीराणि भोगणानि महामुने प्रकृतानि च सर्वाणि बिना श्री कृष्ण विग्रहम. यानी संसार के जितने भी रूप रंग है ना, वो तो सांसारिक हैं, भौतिक हैं जी, भोग करने के लिए हैं. लेकिन एक इसमें एक्सेप्शन है, श्री कृष्ण विग्रहम. गणेश जी बता रहे हैं इस बात को परशुराम जी को. तो इसलिए भगवान श्री कृष्ण निराकार है. वेल, एज पर गणेश जी ऐसा नहीं है, एज पर ब्रह्मा जी भी ऐसा नहीं.
No, it could be that during the time that this Purana was written, It could be that Sri Krishna is the guru of the time, the person who can get people to enlightenment in the most direct manner. That can be the logical explanation why Ganesh has said this, or somebody has written it to highlight Sri Krishna's greatness. And it can be either way, not necessarily that Sri Krishna, that Ganesh is saying that Sri Krishna is not in Nirakar Roop. I don't think he's saying that at all.
नहीं है। और भगवद गीता के अंदर ही बड़ा अच्छा प्रश्न आता है 12वें चैप्टर के अंदर, जहां पर अर्जुन ने पूछा कि भगवान ये साकार निराकार है भला श्रेष्ठ भला क्या है। तो श्लोक इस प्रकार से है, which is chapter 12 verse number.
Okay, here we go. And with this, I can give. So, in this, Arjun inquires, between those who are constantly engaged in acts of seva, service and adoration to you through bhakti yoga, and those who seek to merge their Atma entirely into your imperishable and formless Brahman effulgence, which do you consider has achieved the most perfect knowledge of yoga? So both are ways. That's for sure. But anyway, let's see how he interprets this.
1 अर्जुन उवाच एवं सतत युक्ता ये भोक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरम अव्यक्तम तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। सो अर्जुन ने क्या पूछा? अर्जुन ने पूछा, प्रभु ये आपकी भक्त जैसे आपके स्वरूप की पूजा करते हैं, वो यहाँ जो अव्यक्त है उसकी उपासना करना भला श्रेष्ठ क्या है? वेरी क्लियर कट क्वेश्चन जी। साकार निराकार है, भला श्रेष्ठ क्या है? तो भगवान श्री कृष्ण बता रहे हैं भाई इसमें श्रेष्ठ क्या है। वेरी सिंपल। को बोल सकता है नहीं कृष्ण का मतलब यहाँ निराकार है, नहीं जी, नहीं जी, यहाँ पर ना क्लियर हो रहा है अव्यक्तम यानी कि निराकार की बात हो रही है, या फिर भक्त जैसे आपके साकार रूप की दिव्य रूप की पूजा करते हैं वो श्रेष्ठ है। तो देखते हैं भगवान श्री कृष्ण की ओपिनियन क्या है, फिर उसको आप और मैं मिलकर के स्वीकार कर लेंगे। ठीक है जी। सो चैप्टर 12 वर्स नंबर 2 श्री भगवान उवाच मय्यवेश मनो ये मां नित्य युक्त उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेतास ते मे युक्त तमामताः। The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form. अरे ये तो निराकार नहीं निकले रे। Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect.
Okay, so this idiot. So these are the words. This is obviously the ISKCON's interpretation. So Shri Bhagavan replied, I regard those who perpetually focus their manas upon me in the yoga of loving seva, devoted service, to be established in the most perfect practice of yoga. Now, he's talking about the perfect practice of yoga. He's not talking about what his roop is. So he doesn't say personal form. When he says upon me, it should be understood that it's talking about that changeless reality. So when Shri Krishna is talking about that changeless reality, he's not talking about a personal form. So this should be clear. So yeah, they have that wrong. So it's a wrong translation. And a wrong interpretation because they're not incorporating the whole understanding of the Bhagavad Gita in this.
तो यहाँ बहुत ही क्लियरली बता दिया गया है भगवान श्री कृष्ण के द्वारा
Exactly.
ऑलमोस्ट परफेक्ट है। और इसके बाद के श्लोक भी आते हैं कि जो निराकार में विश्वास रखता है वो भी मेरे पास आता है, लेकिन ना बड़ी कठिनाई से आता है। मतलब जो उसका निराकार से बिल्कुल मन नहीं लग रहा होता है, फिर फाइनली जाकर के आता है। और ऐसे कोई एग्जांपल है कोई निराकारवादी हो, उसको ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार हुआ हो,
Yeah.
और फिर वो भगवान के रूप की ओर आकर्षित हुआ, ऐसा कोई एग्जांपल है जी? हाँ जी, है जी, बिल्कुल है। श्री सुखदेव गोस्वामी जिनको ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार हो चुका है, he became a devotee.
Brahm. What did they mean by Brahm? This formless Brahman. This is why what they say to you, it's they give you half truths. They don't give you the complete truth. And I want to go back on the Nirakar point of view. So he makes a concession, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it. Shri Krishna does say in there that someone who perceives me in that Nirakar state even though it's challenging, they can unite with me. But again, unite with consciousness, not me as in Sri Krishna, the name and form, which they keep implying. Because he's already implied it now. He said personal form. So he can't wriggle his way out of this. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's wrong in that.
मतलब जो उसका निराकार से बिल्कुल मन नहीं लग रहा होता है, फिर फाइनली जाकर के आता है। और ऐसे कोई एग्जांपल है कोई निराकारवादी हो, उसको ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार हुआ हो और फिर वो भगवान के रूप की ओर आकर्षित हुआ, ऐसा कोई एग्जांपल है जी? हाँ जी, है जी, बिल्कुल है। श्री सुखदेव गोस्वामी, जिनको ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार हो चुका है, he became a devotee, he was ज्ञानी परमहंस, he became प्रेमी परमहंस। और कोई एग्जांपल है? हाँ जी, है जी, चतुष कुमार पहले ये थे ज्ञानी परमहंस एंड देन दे बिकेम प्रेमी परमहंस। तो ऐसे दिग्गज, मतलब इनके आगे तो इस संसार के इतने अद्वैतवादी, मतलब इनसे बड़ा अद्वैतवाद का
you don't talk about Adi Shankaracharya. You don't talk about any of the people that have followed Advaita Vedanta here. You're nitpicking.
कौन आचार्य होगा? श्री सुखदेव गोस्वामी एंड चतुष कुमार, वाओ, एंड नाउ दे हैव बिकम प्रेमी परमहंस।
That's their path. I mean, that's fine. I don't know them, so I'm not going to chat about them. But your point still is not valid. Anyone that does worship Nirakar, that worships the formless, can still attain the highest and stay in the formless, stay in that Jnani state. They don't have to become a Bhakta to be realized. You're implying that if someone becomes a Bhakta, is somehow realized. No, that's not the case.
अगर कोई इनके रास्ते में चलेगा तो निश्चित रूप से कोई व्यक्ति जो है आज जो ब्रह्म 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 उपनिषद में जो लगा है, निश्चित रूप से एक दिन भगवान के रूप की ओर, दिव्य रूप की ओर, सच्चिदानंद विग्रह रूप की ओर आकर्षित हो जाएगा। लेकिन हाँ, अगर ईर्ष्या द्वेष में मरा रहेगा तो बेचारा तो फिर तो निराकार की सोच में लगा रहेगा बेचारा, एक दिन शायद मैं निराकार में विलीन होऊंगा। नहीं,
what it is, he doesn't understand it, so that's why he's not able to conceptualize how someone can worship something that is nirakar, that is formless. But tell me now, has he ever seen what Sri Krishna looks like? So if Sri Krishna came down onto this earth, would he know, or say Sri Krishna appears on this earth, would he know what Sri Krishna looks like? Then he says it's a spiritual Satchitananda. Can you tell me what Satchitananda is? Sat meaning this existence that we see and perceive through the five senses. The base of it is consciousness, Chit, and it's full of Ananda, bliss. Where does that say it's a personal form? Nowhere. If you are equating a spiritual form to consciousness, tell me, how does consciousness have a form? Does consciousness have a name? Consciousness is a label we give to it. But does it have a name? Does it have a form? And if you really inquire deeply, which he obviously has not done, you will see that this doesn't have a name or form.
सर आत्मा अव्ययम है, ऐसा भगवद गीता, यानी वो निराकार ब्रह्म के अंदर विलीन नहीं होती है।
No, he's saying complete untruths. Complete untruths. Sri Krishna does not say that someone that there's no such thing as Nirakar. He has not said this. I'm going to rewind a bit so I don't misinterpret what he said.
जाएगा, लेकिन हाँ, अगर ईर्ष्या द्वेष में मरा रहेगा तो बेचारा तो फिर तो निराकार की सोच में लगा रहेगा बेचारा, एक दिन शायद मैं निराकार में विलीन होऊंगा। नहीं सर, आत्मा अव्ययम है, ऐसा भगवद गीता, यानी वो निराकार ब्रह्म के अंदर विलीन नहीं होती है।
No, that's completely untrue. He's beyond name and form according to the Gita. So yeah, nice try, my friend.
सर भगवद गीता अव्ययम,
and give the verse.
यस, इम्यूटेबल भी है साथ साथ में, तो इसीलिए भगवद गीता को फॉलो कर लीजिए। तो इस प्रकार से आप भगवद गीता को अगर आप फॉलो करते हैं, यू कैन क्लियरली अंडरस्टैंड कि भगवान निराकार नहीं है।
No, in fact, Bhagavad Gita proves that he is Nirankar. It proves. This person probably has never read chapter 2 or just completely denies it. Read chapter 2, Amogh Lila Prabhu. You will get the right understanding.
और भी कोई एग्जांपल है? चलिए शिवजी से सुनते हैं।
Oh, now you
नारद
come
मुनि
to
ने पूछा
Shivji.
उनसे, बताइए साकार निराकार है भला श्रेष्ठ क्या है? तो ये श्लोक आता है ब्रह्म वैवर्त पुराण से। तो नारद मुनि ने भला शिवजी से क्या पूछा? उन्होंने पूछा भाई,
So you noticed he's talked more, he's not mentioned one Upanishad except for one Chaitanya Upanishad so far. He's not mentioned any, he's misinterpreted one shlok from the Bhagavad Gita, and now he's talking from a Puran. So again, he is not spoken from the Upanishads, and yet he's denying Nirakar. Ridiculous.
प्रभो किम ब्रह्म साकारम किम निराकारम ईश्वरम। तो भला ये साकार निराकार है भला श्रेष्ठ क्या है? तो ये बहुत ही सुंदर श्लोक है। फिर मेनी वर्सेस जिसमें कि 37 से लेकर के 43rd वर्स तक बहुत ही सुंदर आप इस श्लोक को देख सकते हैं। मैं पूरे श्लोक में नहीं जाऊंगा, ओके, बट इसको आप पढ़ सकते हैं। इसकी ट्रांसलेशन भी हमने डिस्क्रिप्शन में दी है, जिसमें कि साफ साफ शिव जी बता रहे हैं कि वेल, निश्चित रूप से कुछ लोग निराकार मानते हैं, लेकिन जो जिनकी सूक्ष्म बुद्धि है, यानी कि सटल चीजों को समझने की जिनकी बुद्धि है, वो जानते हैं कि वास्तव में परम तत्व जो है वो निराकार नहीं है, बल्कि इस निराकार के अंदर अगर जाके देखें वहां गोलोक धाम भी है। तो इन श्लोकों के अंदर इसकी ट्रांसलेशन भी आप पढ़ सकते हैं, इसकी रेफरेंस।
Okay, so out of this world of form, you go into the formless, then within that formless is some Dham that he's mentioned. Please make that make sense.
हमने डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में दी है, इसको आप पढ़ सकते हैं। इसको हम नहीं पढ़ रहे बिकॉज फिर ये वीडियो बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा, इसीलिए। इसी प्रकार से पद्म पुराण के अंदर भी आ रहा है। तो पद्म पुराण के भाग 5 में उत्तराखंड में आता है, ये 131वां अध्याय है और श्लोक संख्या 104 है। शिव जी बता रहे हैं पार्वती मैया को, सेवरश्च साकारे निर्कारेण वैरसा सकारेण निराकारो जायते स्वयमेव ही। साकार में सेवा रस की प्राप्ति होती है और निराकार में रस की प्राप्ति नहीं होती है। साकार के द्वारा निराकार स्वयं ज्ञात हो जाता है। यस, तो इससे अगर कोई साकार के बारे में जानेगा तो उनसे निकलने वाला जो प्रकाश है उसके बारे में जान लेगा। ब्रह्मणो ही प्रतिष्ठो हम, भगवद गीता चैप्टर 14 वर्स नंबर 27। तो जो भगवान के साकार रूप को जानेगा, दिव्य साकार रूप को जानेगा, वो निराकार को अपने आप जान लेगा। ऑन द अदर हैंड, अगर कोई भगवान के साकार रूप को नहीं मानता, ये तो प्रकृति के 3 गुणों से मिला हुआ ये तो रूप है, ऐसा व्यक्ति बल्कि निराकार का भी साक्षात्कार नहीं कर पाएगा। तो
I think he talked about chapter 14, 27 in Bhagavad Gita, and Shri Krishna says here, "For I am the resting place of Brahman. I am the unlimited source of the nectar of immortality. I am that which always exists and can never be and can never perish. I am the essence of all that is. I am never-ending joy and unlimited ecstasy. I am the one unique being who encompasses all that exists." That directly goes in tune with Nirgun Brahman. Simply, he talks about that which cannot perish. That which cannot perish means that which cannot change. So the only thing that does not change is the formless. That's something which a strong intellect can perceive and understand.
शिव जी ने दोनों बार, एक समय पार्वती मैया को, एक समय नारद मुनि को, दोनों को बता रहे हैं वास्तव में साकार की पूजा निराकार से अधिक श्रेष्ठ है। अब आप शिव जी का कहना मानना चाहते हैं, नहीं मानना चाहते हैं, अब ये निश्चित रूप से आपके ऊपर है। नहीं बोले ठीक है, अगर उनका रूप है, देखा है क्या, उनका रूप देखा है क्या, तो उनके रूप के बारे में वर्णन तो है। आइए देखते हैं ब्रह्म संहिता के अंदर।
No. See, this is what I mean. He thinks he's being smart, but it's showing the flaws in his arguments. Just because someone has written it doesn't mean that it is there, but let's see what he says.
फिर से जाते हैं। So chapter 5 verse number 31। आलोक चंद्र कलस्य वनमाल वंशी रत्नांगदम प्रणय केलिकाल विलासम श्यामम त्रिभंग ललितम नियत प्रकाशम गोविंदमादि पुरुषम तमहम भजामि। Okay, I worship Lord Govinda, the primeval Lord, the original Lord, यानी इन्हीं से सब कुछ आ रहा है। So round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes, that means Leela of love, divine love, whose graceful 3-fold bending form of Shyam Sundar is eternally manifest. और इसका अगला ही श्लोक, अंगानि यस्य सकलेन्द्रिय वृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both
Just to mention again, I don't know who they refer to as Govinda. It can be actually Vishnu too.
spiritual and mundane. तो निश्चित रूप से भगवान के अंदर स्प्लेंडर है, बिल्कुल स्प्लेंडर तो है, प्रकाश तो है, पर इसका मतलब ये नहीं उनके अंग नहीं है। नहीं जी, पहला शब्द क्या है? अंगानि यस्य। यस, तो उनके अंग तो हैं। और शास्त्र में क्या बता रहे हैं? उज्ज्वल विग्रहस्य। तो विग्रह तो है, वो सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं रोशनी है, बस लाइट है। गॉड इज जस्ट लाइट, वी कांट टेक गॉड सो लाइटली। तो इसीलिए अगर आप बोले कृष्ण तो निराकार है, वेल ब्रह्मा जी कुछ और बोल रहे हैं, गणेश जी कुछ और बोल रहे हैं, शिव जी कुछ और बोल रहे हैं।
So this is my thing to Amogh Lila Prabhu. Please tell me, in all the Puranas that you've mentioned, are there any verses that oppose what you've said? Because you just nitpicked a few verses. There's so many verses in them.
अब ये सुनने वालों के लिए हम छोड़ देते हैं भाई, अब आप आचार्य प्रशांत जी का मत वो स्वीकार करना चाहते हैं कृष्ण निराकार है, या फिर
I go with Acharya Prashant.
फिर आप ये जो महाविभूतियां हैं शास्त्रों में जो बोल रही हैं कृष्ण साकार है और साकार की पूजा निराकार से
He may have been Sakar for Arjun, but not right now. Now he has to be Nirakar. You do not see him now. He is not there in Vrindavan. He's not there in any other place. He is now truly only Nirakar. You cannot see him. He's absolutely formless. Then you may turn around and say, well, there's murti of him. The murti does not mean that is Sri Krishna. What is the essence? Oh, the essence is formless. How can he said immutable, immovable. If something is static, can it be a form? Form is always changing. So Sakar can only be for that particular time. Now is not the case. Simple as that.
श्रेष्ठ है, इनको स्वीकार करना चाहते हैं, वेल अप टू यू। तो इस प्रकार से ना हम देखते हैं शास्त्रों में शुरुआत होती है निराकार से, जैसे उपनिषदों में आता है, they glorify God as more in very generic fashion, not nirakar but generic fashion, that is perceived as
No, it's very direct that it's Nirankar
by not so intelligent people, and
do you see that? This is why he is so dishonest.
To you. तो इस प्रकार से ना हम देखते हैं शास्त्रों में शुरुआत होती है निराकार से, जैसे उपनिषदों में आता है, they glorify God as more in very generic fashion, not nirakar but generic fashion, that is perceived as nirakar by not so intelligent people.
No, it's beyond your intellect. That's why you can't understand it, but that's fine.
And gradually it gets into personal form. Purana.
Now, why does it go into personal form? Why does it go into Purana? Is that showing us, in my opinion, why is it that science is more in line with what the Upanishads is saying rather than of the Nirakar aspect than the Puran and all its stories? He doesn't have an answer for that because science is probably something that is against. He's something against.
Yes. तो भगवान का जो दिव्य रूप है उसको हाईलाइट किया गया.
And could it also be because people cannot grasp the highest? So to help them, the rishis have been kind enough to give us stories to help us. That's all, to help us. But if we start taking them as truths over the Upanishads, then that's a sad state of affairs. And that sad state of affairs is this gentleman here.
तो इसीलिए हम देखते हैं श्रीमद् भागवतम के 10th कैंटो के अंदर आखिर में श्रुति जो उपनिषद इत्यादि है ना, ये सब पर्सोनिफाई होकर के गोपी के रूप में भगवान श्री कृष्ण से प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं कि प्रभु हमने आपको निराकार बताया, क्षमा कर दीजिएगा, आपका तो दिव्य स्वरूप है, तो अगर आप पढ़ना चाहें कि उपनिषदों ने, वेदों ने पर्सोनिफाइड एज गोपी भला भगवान श्री कृष्ण क्या गुणगान किया है, तो वेल आप पढ़ सकते हैं अमंग द सीक्वेंस ऑफ द शास्त्रास अल्टीमेट इज श्रीमद् भागवतम, जैसे हमने पहले एस्टैब्लिश किया था। 80
He didn't establish that in any way. Like, it wasn't through any concrete evidence. He didn't say which rishi has said this. Like, he didn't go into who directed that there in Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. He didn't go into this. So his base is very faulty and not so strong. He may not have had time to explain it, so I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt in that regard. But otherwise, anything he said doesn't hold any weight, in my opinion.
7th chapter के अंदर there is chapter Vedas personified glorify Krishna. Yes, तो श्रुति के
So if the Vedas and say the Upanishads, praise Shri Krishna, if they're talking about something Nirakar, then that means Shri Krishna is Nirakar. You've said it yourself. You just can't grasp it because you're so indoctrinated. You can't think beyond. You're so much in the echo chamber, you can't see beyond.
इस प्रकार से गोपियों के रूप में कृष्ण गुणगान करती हैं, आप पढ़ सकते हैं। तो इसीलिए इट इज सॉलिडली एस्टैब्लिश्ड दैट यस कृष्णा हैज फॉर्म। उनसे निकलने वाला जो तेज है वो निराकार हो सकता है, लेकिन भगवान श्री कृष्ण का रूप तो है। और अगर आप चाहें तो ईशोपनिषद के 15वें श्लोक के अंदर भी हिरण्यमय पात्र श्लोक भी पढ़ सकते हैं, जिसमें भगवान से प्रार्थना की जा रही है, प्रभु आपके चारों ओर की आभा हटाइए ताकि मैं आपके सुंदर रूप के दर्शन कर सकूं। तो कृष्ण का भी बहुत सुंदर
Why is that Sundar Roop? Although it's not the way he has said it, but that is about the splendor, as he talked about. The splendor doesn't have to be actual light. It doesn't actually have to be a form. One can find this in the formless too. This is why, in my opinion, it's of the highest to get there. But for this guy, is too much.
मुख है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं उनके जो रोशनी निकल रही है, dazzling effulgence है, that means well, निराकार. It's not like that.
Well, it's not like that for you, not necessarily for us. I can totally understand what the Upanishads are saying. So can others. It's not, you don't, if you just actually follow what the scripture says and actually understand it fully before you move to the next verse or the next chapter, or if you actually see from the base and you see from the base and you then read according to that, you understand everything properly.
पर शास्त्र, as per उपनिषद, as per श्रुति स्मृति, तो इसलिए अगर श्रुति स्मृति को अगर कोई लेके चलेगा ना, तो ऐसे व्यक्ति की अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिल्कुल सही रहेगी। इसलिए पद्म पुराण के अंदर श्लोक आता है, श्रुति स्मृति पुराण,
only Puran, he can't go beyond that.
एकांत की हरेर भक्तिर उत्पाताय व कल्पते। तो अगर कोई श्रुति स्मृति इत्यादि पुराण इनको अगर लेके नहीं चलेगा, बल्कि अपने मत अनुसार चलेगा, उत्पाताय व कल्पते, ऐसे व्यक्ति समाज में सिर्फ उत्पात ही मचाता है। नॉट एज पर मी बट एज पर शास्त्र। और जितने भी शास्त्र इत्यादि हैं, इनमें भला गुणगान अल्टीमेटली हुआ किसका है? कृष्ण का तो गुणगान हुआ है, एंड कृष्णा डजंट मीन निराकार, ऑफ कोर्स। इस शास्त्र का
So this is where this gets really tricky. How can he defend this point? The Vedas have not mentioned Krishna. So where is he coming out with all this? This is what he's doing is really dangerous.
बता रहे हैं, वेदे रामायणे चैव पुराणे भारते तथा आदाव्य अन्ते च मध्ये च हरि सर्वत्र गीयते. That means in all the Vedas, Ramayana, Puranas, Mahabharata, Lord Hari's glories are sung throughout in the beginning, the middle and the end. तो इसलिए भगवान श्री हरि का गुणगान करना चाहिए अगर कोई वाकई में आचार्य है, अगर वो वाकई में कोई गुरु है.
What did they mean by Hari? This Nirakar. That's what this Brahman, this Nirgun Brahman. So this man doesn't really understand what Nirakar is, doesn't understand what the formless is, cannot grasp this formless. That's why he's saying all this and nitpicking verses to prove his point, which I find dishonest. If you're gonna speak on such matters, speak holistically. But again, he can't. Hi, Saviji.
तो उसको भगवान श्री हरि का गुणगान करना चाहिए. तो इसीलिए नो डाउट आप उपनिषदों को पढ़ा रहे हैं, अच्छी बात है, लेकिन आध्यात्मिक शिक्षा की माइनॉरिटी है, बाकी सोशल इश्यूज की मेजॉरिटी है. हम ये नहीं कह रहे चलो आप बिल्कुल स्पिरिचुअल एजुकेशन देते ही नहीं है, देते हैं, लेकिन उसकी बहुत माइनॉरिटी है. ऑब्वियसली उपनिषदों को पे ही आप अटके हुए हैं। तो आपने बताया ना जो सीक्वेंस है इसमें अल्टीमेटली आपको कहाँ जाना है, अल्टीमेट स्पिरिचुअल साइंस इज श्रीमद् भागवतम, तो ये पढ़ाना चाहिए आपके फॉलोअर्स को। तो अगेन this video was meant to clarify our stand on the views of आचार्य प्रशांत जी। हमें कोई किसी से द्वेष नहीं है।
Although, see, this is why I call him a bad actor, because he, if you see throughout the video, he's been really dishonest. He's not been clear in his dealings, and he's not dealt with Acharya Prashant in the correct manner. He's not followed ethics. He's not. If he was true to his point, he would have actually addressed parts of the text that talk about this Nirakar, but he doesn't. He totally ignores it. And if he's going to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam, that's fine. We can all read the tales of Sri Krishna as we read the Bible, and Jesus is in there, and it will be considered the same way. But the difference will be if you read it in the sense of, well, what did Krishna give to people? Well, he told people about this Brahman, this Nirgun Brahman, this attributeless one, this witness consciousness, this awareness. So if you see from there, then you can understand the Bhagavatam. But through your own crooked ways, no. I think they should advertise this gone in foreign, not in India. They are coming from Abrahamic religion, not us. We are open to everything. Yeah, I agree. Although he's based in India and teaches mainly in India.
हम सब सनातनी हैं, हम सब एक ही परिवार के हैं, लेकिन आपस में हेल्दी डिस्कशंस हो सकते हैं, बिल्कुल हो सकते हैं, व्हाई नॉट। बल्कि अद्वैत सिद्धांत के ऊपर बड़ा डिटेल अगर कोई वीडियो बना के वो देंगे ना, तो फिर उसको जान के हमें अद्वैत के बारे में और पता लगेगा, एंड देन वी कैन maybe put some more inputs about that understanding as well. So please feel free to do that. Again, हम आपके मंगलमय जीवन, अच्छे स्वास्थ्य की प्रार्थना करते हैं आपके लिए, आपके आसपास अच्छे लोग रहें, पॉजिटिव लोग रहें, और इसी प्रार्थना के साथ हम इस वीडियो को यहाँ अंत करते हैं। So we just wanted to present our views as per Shastra, because what Amogh Lila Das says has got no value. मैं तो तुच्छ प्राणी हूँ, भला मेरे कहेगी क्या वैल्यू, कुछ।
Okay, fair enough. But nice. I mean, he's given his interpretation. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. But I am going to speak on the... my final point is going to be on the verse that he mentioned on chapter 12. He talks about how it's not Nirakar. And so this is what he doesn't mention. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. So he says, one who is free from all material desires, who is suchi, clean and pure, who is skillful and dexterous, who is detached from all material objects, who is free of anxiety, and who is unattached to the results of all actions, is Mad Bhakta and Priya, deeply devoted and very dear to me. I adore such beings. You see here how he says detached from all material objects. So material objects is the name and form. That's material object. That shows that you have to be detached from anything with form. So whatever you can see or perceive through the senses is form. Then he says, so and in the question, he does say, in his response to Arjun, he also says, but those who are constantly focused upon the Brahman reality as imperishable, undefinable, materially unmanifest, all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, unmoving, constant, and those who have completely subdued their indriyas, the bodily senses, who are even-minded and indifferent in all of life situations, and who rejoice in the well-being of all living entities, they also attain me. So, but in the next verse, he says this, and this is where he was coming to, and this is what I want to end with. He says, those whose yoga is focused upon my inconceivable, unmanifest, and imperceptible nature follow the most difficult yogic path. For those who are embodied, the pursuit of my qualityless, undifferentiated Brahman nature is the most difficult and troublesome way to approach me. Now, the smart thing here. So Shri Krishna is not saying, as Amogh Lila Prabhu was trying to make it out to be, that he's talking about how the Nirakar Roop is impossible to go to, that it's the most, it's impossible, it doesn't work. When he says it's the most difficult and troublesome way to approach me, if you think you are name and form, if you think you are only this body and mind, then to approach the formless is challenging. So what Sri Krishna is saying is really that if you understand that you are not name and form, you've got it easy. You will attain the highest. But and it would be the easiest. But if you think that you are name and form and that therefore you will try to go towards something formless, it's going to be very difficult and challenging. That's all he is saying. He's not saying that this is not the truth. He has said, the pursuit of my qualityless, undifferentiated Brahman nature. Qualityless means attributeless, undifferentiated. What does that mean? What is that which doesn't have a difference? Formless. What is qualityless? Formless. What is inconceivable? Formless. What is unmanifest? Formless. What is imperceptible? Formless. Nirakar. So if you think you're embodied, for sure this is difficult. But if you've understood the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you know you are not an embodied being. In fact, you are this witness consciousness, and the embodiment of this name and form is Prakriti, nature. And if you think you are Prakriti, yes, then what Sri Krishna says is a very smart thing. He says, then you need to utilize a form to get out of that. But guess where you have to go to? The true nature of Sri Krishna, which is Nirgun Brahman. So I'll end the episode with that. It's been 2 hours and 32 minutes on this. But thank you for sticking by. And I'll catch you again on the next live, hopefully next week if I'm able to. But do let me know if you have any feedback. If you would like to support the podcast on my Patreon, please do. And most of all, this is a discussion. Keep it healthy in the comments. Keep it respectful in either side. Be nice to each other. And, let's have a fun discussion. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye. Bye, Vikramji.